And I have the proud privilege, ladies and gentlemen, to invite on stage our special guest, Shri Sanjeev Razdan, CMD Pawan Hans Limited. Let's put our hands together, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome Sir. I have the privilege in inviting our very special guest, Shri Kapil Kaul, CEO Kappa Asia Pacific Region. Let's put our hands together to welcome Sir. And I have the privilege in inviting Dr. Inderjeet Singh, ICAO, Airport Consultant and formerly Airport Director, IA. Please welcome our special guest with a warm round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And I have the privilege in inviting Lieutenant General K.M. Seth, President FAST, Shri V.P. Agarwal, Vice President FAST, and Mr. Raman Sidhu, Vice President FAST, to join the dais. Namaskar and good morning. Eminent dignitaries on the stage, special invitees, senior officials, distinguished participants, respected members of the press and media, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to the seminar on emerging scenario in aviation, India needs matching infrastructure and support services, which is being organized by Foundation for Aviation and Sustainable Tourism, FAST, in support with the Ministry of Civil Aviation, Government of India. The seminar is on the theme of emerging scenario in aviation. India needs matching infrastructure and support services. And ladies and gentlemen, today the august presence of eminent dignitaries is a source of inspiration for all of us. And as our esteemed guests gather here today to mark the beginning of our special event with the auspicious ceremony of lighting the ceremonial lamp, I would request all our dignitaries on the stage to kindly do the honors of light the ceremonial lamp and formally inaugurate the seminar today. And let's put our hands together on the auspicious beginning of today's seminar with the ceremonial lamp lighting. Ladies and gentlemen, with the lamp lit and being passed on from one wick to another symbolizes the sharing of knowledge. With lighting the lamp, we also pray to the Almighty for their guidance and success for our events. And may I request for a group photograph in front of the lamp, please? Thank you. Sir, may I request for a group photograph in front of the lamp, sir? Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. We thank our dignitaries for doing the honors. Ladies and gentlemen, Foundation for Aviation and Sustainable Tourism, FAST, which is a non-profit research body since 1992, is duly registered with the International Civil Aviation Organization, is primarily concerned with promotion of civil aviation and tourism, and acts as a facilitator between the industry and the government to flag off contemporary issues and concerns of stakeholders and help in taking a balanced view approach in the decision-making process. And ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General Krishan Mohan Seth, PVSM, AVSM retired, former Governor of Tripura and Chhattisgarh, is currently the Honorable President of Foundation for Aviation and Sustainable Tourism. General Seth is a very capable and highly decorated officer of the Indian Army. He brings in with him vast managerial and administrative experience. And I now have the proud privilege in inviting General Seth to kindly begin the proceedings with his welcome address. Please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome sir.
Good morning, everybody. Mr. Inderjeet Singh ji on the dais, Shri Kapil Kaul ji, Sanjeev Rajdan ji, Mr. Raman Sidhu, Mr. Agarwal, and very close and very dear to the fast, all of you present here in the hall. I welcome you all to this seminar organized by FAST on emerging scenario in aviation. In India needs a matching infrastructure and support services. It's very important subject, but at the very outset, let me apologize on behalf of Dr. V.K. Singh, the Minister of State for Civil Aviation, and Shri Dushyant Chautala ji, Deputy Chief Minister of Haryana. Both of them, till as late as yesterday lunch, were slated and had accepted, and we were looking forward to welcome them here today. But all of us are aware of not the weather, but the hot environment in the country where people are moving from left to right. One has gone to Lucknow and another, Mr. Chautala, has gone to Jaipur last night. So on their behalf, I sincerely apologize to the audience. We will miss their presence and pearls of wisdom which would have come out of them. As far as the demand for the travel in India is concerned, it is rising by every day. The northward curve of the people using the aviation as a mode of transportation is increasing leaps and bounds, and we are expected to become the third largest population traveling by air in the world. Not very late, as early as 2030. Now, that be so, even today as we are, all major airports, when you go, they have started looking like a railway platform of yesteryears. They are cluttered, they are overflowing with the passengers. And one feels sorry for them that they are paying a hefty sum to travel, but not the comforts which an air traveler deserves. And that is where the question lies. This increase has to be matched with infrastructural and other developments simultaneously. Not only this, a large demand has been raised by Air India and Indigo for increasing their air fleet. The Air India has ordered 470 aircrafts, whereas Indigo has ordered 500 Airbuses. Once these are introduced and the passenger traffic expected to reach 110 crores by 2040, you can imagine the state of our airports. What we need is almost doubling or tripling of the resources around. The government of India, of course, has planned to increase from 31 active airports till 2022 to nearly 220 by 225, which is almost doubling up the number of airports. What will it mean is we will be connecting more remote areas, we will be creating new routes, and of course, this will mean larger and larger population utilizing this means of transportation. With this increase and requirement of infrastructure, the requirement of funds on the government would increase manifold. While agreeing that the government is prepared to spend this much, but to support its development, all-around development, and including the airport, I personally of the opinion that the private investors will have to come in a big way. We have had this concept of public-private partnership for a long time, which in my personal opinion has not succeeded to the level to which I had expected about 10 years back. This model will have to be redrawn to attract the private players to support the government in developing the airport infrastructures. It will have to take in account that during the last 10 years, a large number of private players who entered with great enthusiasm in the aviation sector have had to close down. Why have they closed down? What is it? Well, if the government, as a government, if you expect the private investors will put in money to lose that money, we are sadly mistaken. Every private investor invests money if he sees reasonable profit. Not a huge, hefty profit, but at least a reasonable profit is expected by him. And we should accept that fact. It is this acceptance which is missing. We want them to give their money and lose it out to us. That's the government. No, it won't work. We'll have to draw out a new model of attracting private investors. Another thing is that the technology infusion which is taking place at a very, very fast pace. We are lagging behind in bringing that into our airports and air services and managing the air transportation. We will have to put greater and greater reliance on infusing the technology as well as making the population traveling with the air to understand and utilize them. I myself find it difficult to do a tele check-in and all, but that thing has to disappear. Another interesting thing is 5% of the GDP is contributed by aviation sector. What it amounts to is that a large number of jobs are created by this sector. The government has to understand that there is a need to create new job opportunities. And here is a sector which offers and lends itself in creating more and more jobs. Another sector which needs attention is the cargo. We in the last few years have been emphasizing in FAST seminars and outside, there is a great deal of improvement needed in the cargo sector to make India as a hub of this part of the world. It is possible, not only because of the geographical location of India, but India as an emerging power should emerge as a hub of cargo as well. And lastly, The MRO. Somehow this MRO has not drawn the attention it deserves. Creation of MRO facilities within the country is extremely important to check the outflow of foreign exchange. In fact, it should become a foreign exchange earner, which is well on the cards, and we got to pay attention towards this. All these and many more aspects of the infrastructural development and sustainability of the air travel will be discussed during the two business sessions which will follow the inaugural session, and very worthy speakers have agreed to lend their helping hand to us to make all this available to you, and it will be up to us, up to the government to modify its I think aviation policy was in 1916, if I am not wrong. That needs to be updated, I wouldn't say modified, updated to cater for the emerging scenario. With this, I rest my case and leave it for the MC to proceed further. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, sir, for those warm words of welcome and for setting the content for today's seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, our special guest, Dr. Inderjeet Singh, has served in the development and management of airports in many global locations worldwide, including the several assignments under the aegis of ICAO as an airport consultant in Africa, South Asia, UAE, and South America. He was earlier the airport director of IGI Airport, and Dr. Inderjeet has thus acquired hands-on experience of airport operations in diverse socio-economic environments and an exposure to the best global practices in the industry. And I have the proud privilege now in requesting our special guest, Dr. Inderjeet Singh Ji, to kindly address the August House present here today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together to welcome sir.
Presentation. Good morning, General Seth, sir, and the distinguished colleagues and friends on the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a bright privilege to be here to share my experience and thoughts which I have earned over several years around the world and in India especially. And I owe a great deal to Airports Authority of India, where I, didn't start my career. I was with an American company before, but that was probably the stepping stone which led me to several parts of the world. And I owe so many of my colleagues who are here for the help, assistance, and support they gave me in performing my duties wherever I was posted in India. In next few minutes, would delve into certain aspects, as the topic here I have chosen is Global Air Transport Industry. The devil is in the details. The devil in the details, you all know, is a very fashionable phrase these days, which means that what we see, and as General Seth sir said, what we see is one thing, but what happens in between and behind the scenes is much, much different than what our perception is. We in the industry probably see the depth of the situations, but our stakeholders, prominent among them being our passengers or customers, probably are not aware of all that. So we have not only to conceive what we think is good, but we have to understand our prime customers. And for airports, I think the two prime customers are airlines and passengers. But before going to my few minutes presentation, I would just like to point out a few commandments in aviation that maybe we are all aware of, but we need to remind ourselves about them from time to time. It's like having driven after 30 years or 40 years, when we leave home, still the parents say, drive safely, which doesn't mean that we don't drive safely, but it's like a caution. So I will just give away those 3 or 4 points which come to my mind, which we should always remember as budding officers or people who have earned some experience and expertise. One is aviation is not a self-serving industry. It is a catalyst for tourism, trade, and commerce. I mean, it's not like towards the end of the day we say we have made 1 million bottles of wine, or we have produced 600 cars, or, we have nothing to show in terms of any product. So our major product is customer service, which is tangible. You can see if the customer service is good or customer service is bad. So we have to keep that always in mind, that we belong to a service industry, and our motto is just to serve. Now, of the 17 SDGs of the United Nations, which are again very, very important, United Nations wants to accomplish them by the year 2030. Because of COVID, the pandemic, maybe there would be a delay of 3 to 4 years, but all the countries are heading towards achieving those goals. And in India, as you know, Niti Aayog is the one which is seriously looking into this matter and following it up. What is heartening to note that amongst the 17 SDGs, the Strategic Development Goals of the United Nations, 14 are supported by aviation. Now that is a beautiful feeling for all of us to cherish, that of the 17 goals which worldwide we want to achieve, 14 are supported. I'll give you a very simple example. We produced vaccine, so did some other countries. But to spread the vaccine all around the world, we had to bank on aviation. And 640 loads of Boeing 747, equivalent of that load, was distributed around the globe, followed by some small airlines or aircraft carriers carrying it to the remote areas of different countries. So, we may go ahead and do whatever, but unless we have a support of aviation, there is nothing that moves. In fact, I would say aviation is the lifeline of us for the global good. It's a lifeline. Another example which I can instantly comes to mind is the evacuation of about 5,000 stranded Indians from Yemen. Again, it was the aviation that supported it. Of course, the government's wish to do all that is there. But unless we had that means of transport, we could possibly not accomplish all that. The third thing that we have to keep in mind always is that airports are not the destinations. They are transit points. I mean, this may sound very basic, but this was told by no less than Mr. Buckminster Fuller when Tata Committee report came. I'm talking of those days when there was this talk of developing the 4 major airports, Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras, then as they were called. Buckminster Fuller from United States had come, and we had the honor and privilege of working with him and seeing him and shaking hands, which was a big deal at that time, where he said that your journey starts from home, and your journey finishes at the next home in another country, another city, or the hotel, wherever you are going. Airports take them just as transit points, where you leave one mode of transport, like surface transport, train or taxi or car or whatever, get into air transport, go to the next place, and then again get out and take another mode of transport. My emphasis is that we have to develop airports which are totally painless. This is what Buckminster Fuller said, that it should be painless airports. It's not the hassle, like Sir just pointed out, that, you know, each one of us is very anxious when we go to the airport. At least me, when we start from the hotel and go towards the airport, I think twice we check if the passport is there, is the ticket there, haven't I left my foreign exchange in the wallet in the hotel? You know, those kind of anxiousness comes. And when you reach the destination, again the same anxiety. Why Mr. Kashyap has got the bag, I haven't got mine. So we all feel that everybody is getting his bags, I am not getting. So you are anxious. So our aim should be, when we develop airports here or abroad, we are into consulting also, the Airports Authority of India, that we make painless airports. No anxiety, they should be stress relievers and not stress promoters. Now, you see, these are very important things which we learned over the years, and this only comes through our experience, hands-on experience. None of the books by Robert Horinjoff, who was like his books, Professor Kanafani's books were like Bibles for us when we were studying airports. I did my thesis on airports before joining Airports Authority. So we used to worship these books. But those books are archaic now. So we all, these are the forums where we have to share our experience as to how we have felt aviation over the last 15, 20, 25 or 30 years. Now, another one last point is that aviation is not Indian aviation, African aviation, or American aviation. Aviation is global. So there should be no culture shock when 4 hours from Singapore you drive into Delhi and you find a different world, which, sir, you mentioned as railway stations. At one time, where you just had one stale cup of coffee and a newspaper and a broken bench and all. But we have come very far away from that point. Incidentally, 2 of our airports, Delhi and Mumbai, are amongst the top 100. Of course, Delhi is 35 and Bombay is 56 in the 100 ranking. Otherwise, we are number 1 in South Asia. But just a little beyond the boundary of South Asia, if you go to Southeast Asia, Singapore is number 1 in the world. Now, what stops us in understanding Singapore? Singapore is just next door. Dubai is just next door. I mean, 3 hours from this side or that side. So while I compliment and take pride in being from a country where we have all 4 airports amongst the top airports, 100 airports of the world. But what stops in making them number 1, number 2, or number 3, if not the world, at least in Asia? So this is something to ponder on as to what is that which is kicking in Singapore and which is not here. After all, we are the ones. I mean, when Dubai terminal was commissioned, I happened to be working with Dubai Aerospace Enterprise. And I was very active in the commissioning of that airport. And mind you, you've all been to Dubai. There was nothing very extraordinary. But what was that which made it extraordinary from an ordinary airport is what we have to pick on. And those nuances, we have to bring them home and integrate them in Delhi, Bombay, Hyderabad, Bangalore. I mean, the airports which are excellent. Now, we take pride. I mean, a small thing, I was in Brazil a few months back, and people started talking about Hyderabad airport because there is one trolley, for instance, which is IoT. You know, it's on internet. So you load your stuff in the trolley will guide you to the gate. And if there is a minute's change or a gate change position, which happens quite often, you know, it's announced gate number 92, and then suddenly in New York, they'll say gate number 33. And that may be 15 minutes walk. But that trolley, the computer mounted on the trolley tells you gate number so-and-so, and it will guide you through. Same when you are exiting an airport, a large airport. We are talking of very, very large airports. When you claim your baggage, then you are looking for which exit to go. So they are real time, they work, okay, this exit is not so very crowded, taxis are available there. This is not. So the trolley will lead you to that exit where you can even punch. Let's say I've told my wife that I will be exiting at gate number 6, you receive me there. Incidentally, my wife is here, Mala, and I always take her along because this is the only time when I can speak and she listens. Otherwise, it's the other way around. So it's become a habit now that I take her and I seek from authorities whether I can bring my wife, and graciously it was accepted. Okay, you can bring your wife. But the motive was the same. At least she could listen to me for next 10 minutes. Now, I mentioned to you that we have to be global in our approach. We can't be Indian aviation or African aviation because all of us have worked in, Rakesh is here who had gone with me to Nigeria once, and so many other friends who are now here or they are not. I was looking after the foreign projects, and we used to go and travel. And this is what we used to discuss, that if an airport in Tanzania can do so well, why can't we? You know, we have to set our benchmark high. We should not be living in our glory of being the number one in South Asia. We want to be in Southeast Asia also. Then we want to be in the region. Then we want to rank somewhere at the global level. That should be our aim. Now I think I'll go with my slides, please. I explained to you why I said the devil in the details. As we go forward, we'll see as to what is that. And I must also say, and to the organizers of this function, the FAST, that this is an opportune time and the right time to take stock of what we have done. I mean, 28th of December is almost the end of the year. So we can do some introspection and see as to what we have achieved in this year and what is the way forward for us. So I think I must compliment Mr. Miglani, who is the driving force behind running the show, of course, under the guidance of General Seth and Mr. Agarwal and Raman, of course. So as we go, let's first take what's the dynamics of air traffic growth. Let us feel good as to where we stand today. If I was a bit critical about our position in the world, it is in good spirit with the pure aim of becoming number 1, number 2, or number 5. In 2005, at the turn of the century, the world airlines and airports handled 4 billion passengers, which is 61% of the then global population of 6.5 billion. 61%. Then in 23, which we are still on, 8.6 billion passengers, which is 106% of world population of 8.04. I mean, these are global figures. As I mentioned, let's not have barriers between Indian aviation and global aviation. After all, we belong to the global community of aviation. Okay? In now that, see, from 61% to 106, almost double, within a span of 18 years. Now 2050, global volume of passengers projected by, and the source is there, ACI World Airport Traffic Forecast. Global volume of passengers projected is 23.9 billion or 23 billion, which would be 243% of global population, which is going to be 10 billion at that time, 9.8 billion. Imagine you are carrying the entire world 2.5 times. I mean, that's a beautiful feeling. I think no other mode of transport can claim that. When we talk of aviation, which is the fastest and the largest mode of transportation, and the safest also. I mean, if you go by statistics, of course, even 5 people die in a crash, it makes an international news. But here in Shimla, we have buses falling, 50 perished or 200 perished and all. Tomorrow they'll forget, but God forbids, if something happens in aviation, even 10 people, it makes a global noise. So that's a matter of pride that, you know, we are taking the globe 2.5 times the size of the globe all around the world. And the corresponding figure then in Indian air traffic volume is estimated to be 1.6 billion, which is 6.9% of the global traffic. Incidentally, the global traffic also has doubled in last few years. which is again very, very encouraging. And but then, as General Sir said, that we have to be prepared for that. I mean, the whole idea is not to feel good about it, but to say, okay, how we do a course correction so that we are better off 10 years hence or 15 years hence. Traffic will go. It will grow anyway. People after COVID want to travel, they want to see the world before they leave the world. So the idea is how best we can show them so that each visit of their anywhere in the world is a great experience. Now let's take a reality check. That's important, because if we don't know where we stand today, surely we cannot improve for tomorrow or day after. So the whole idea is to have a quick glance as to where we stand. The three events in recent times which had a profound effect on aviation worldwide, I mean, which I'm talking in our own professional lives of 20, 25 years, is 9/11, which we all remember. We saw what all happened. Then was the economic downturn, which was in 2008, and of course the latest, which was COVID-19. Now, amongst all these three, air travel suffered one of the most severe blows after the global pandemic of 2019. And when I mentioned about the devils in the detail, this paragraph reads out very clearly that a global overview and analysis of the effects of 9/11 and the pandemic revealed that post 9/11 in 2001, which at that time was like a disaster, was 9% of the aircraft were not flying, or the total hours were less by 9%. While as in pandemic, they were less by 70%. So you can compare the two, which sounded such a big deal at that time as compared to COVID is nothing. Of course, it made a global noise because of the terrorism kind of a thing. COVID is natural. Well, it's nice to say natural. Where the mischief started and all, that's politics. We don't want to delve into all that. But the point is, there are several theories about it and where it started and how it started and how it spread. It was like another kind of a story, which we don't want to delve into. But this is the major difference between what happened in 9/11 and what happened in COVID. Both affected aviation, but the severity is very, very different, almost 8-9 times more. So you can see the difference between the two. Now, that was the downfall of traffic, as I mentioned, how it fell down from 9% to 70%, and now we're talking about the rise, which is much more positive. Global passengers traffic dropped from 9.2 billion in pre-pandemic 2019 to 3.6 billion in 2020. So a drop of 6 billion in air traffic, suddenly in 1 year. But it recovered to 4.6 billion in 2021 and to 6.5 billion in 2022, which is 92% of the 2019. I mean, we generally take benchmarks and say, okay, we have gone so high, but when we fall, then if we come back to good shape, that is where we should take credit for. So we came back. Now we are at almost 94% of the pre-pandemic level. And the baseline projections for global passenger traffic indicate that the industry will recover to 2019 levels by mid-2024. So hopefully by next middle of June or July, we may be reaching that level which we had in 2019. This recovery is significant because we recovered in 3 years as compared to less than 3 years as compared to what happened in 9/11, because there we were caught totally unaware. So, we didn't, nobody expected that some such disaster can take place in USA and in New York. So the motto of this story is that the harder we fall, the higher we bounce. I mean, that is a very, very positive thing that we have learned from aviation. One, aviation is very resilient by nature, good for us. Plus, the hard work and dedication of our people who work at different airports or in aviation sector in India or abroad, all over. They are a dedicated lot. They want to give their life for this because it's so glamorous, number one. The industry is so glamorous. Then that takes you around the world. You get to know the best of the people. You have the choice of working with the best of the people. So that becomes very, very significant. On a private note, sir, my new book has been launched in London. It's called Tough tough roads create tough people. So it's what I'm trying to say. There I took the the entire book. It depends on two factors. One is how a butterfly comes out of an ugly caterpillar. So as you have known that when a caterpillar is just about to die, the butterfly springs out of it. So that never say die attitude. That's very important. You know, your attitude takes you to the heights, to the altitude, let's call it that way. And then I had taken recourse to the phoenix, the bird phoenix, which is a mythical bird. After every 500 years or 1,000 years, it comes out of ashes. So I would compare our aviation with that kind of a nature, where we think that we are doomed. In 9/11, people thought we are gone. Aviation will never spring back. And see where it's come to those heights. COVID is gone, we'll forget it next year. When we are again back on track, we'll forget that as a hiccup in our course of going forward. Now, the 2008 global financial, now I'm trying to compare what happened then, what happened in these two instances. The 2008 global financial crisis was purely economic and weakened spending power. It did not affect anything, but the value of money went down so much that the spending became less and people stopped traveling because of that. There was no damage actually to the aviation infrastructure as compared to 9/11 and COVID. And what followed was the formulation of comprehensive legislation that led in the redesign of aviation security and safety. You see, in every mishaps, you have to count your blessings. You know, we thought before 2001 that we are big, aviation is big, we are very fast, and probably it was the divine's message to us that you are big, you are fast, but you are not secured. So suddenly TSA was formed in America, and they did a lot of research and geared up the aviation infrastructure and the aviation system all around the world. Today, we are secured. When you fly over New York, sorry. Okay, sir. Okay. So when we fly over New York, you don't ever think that you will go and hit against the world towers. You don't think that way, unless a mishap happens by some technical fault of the aircraft. But you would probably not expect terrorism like we witnessed in 2001. Then damages, visible and invisible, undergone by airports and airlines in the aftermath of the pandemic. Now, I'm not a scholar or I'm not a researcher in pavement designs, but we were evaluating all this at one stage, that, you know, our pavements, for instance, at airports are not designed for static load. Our runways, taxiways, and pavements are designed for moving loads, except for that 1.5 or 2 hours when the aircraft is parked. Of course, when you are in the hangars, the aircraft sit for 10 days, 15 days for checks and all that. So those pavements are designed to meet that requirement, but not these. So a lot of aircraft, you see now there are about 30,000 aircraft in commercial aviation today, 2,860 odd to be very, very precise, of which 30 to 50% are in the air. And the rest are on the ground, because aircraft are their best when they are in the air, when they sit on the ground, they're not earning any money for us. So half of the aircraft are flying. Now, if all 100% are sitting at our airports, all these runways and taxiways and pavements got distressed, which is not visible, it's invisible. And I learned in Brazil that even the insurance companies are charging higher premium, because when the pavements are damaged, then the aircraft is not stable. You know, the loading is not equal. Now they are trying to resurface the entire lot. And they didn't have time also to move to different airports. I mean, the best would have been, there are so many airports, they could have easily distributed. But imagine we have X number of aircraft of Air India. Bombay is the hub. If all of them sit in Bombay, you can imagine every inch of the pavements were used by, even the runways were full with aircraft parked on it. So, you know, there are certain visible, tangible things which are certain intangible. So a lot of damages have taken place which we would probably not see, but we have to understand. Now, the three major players, now this is important that we always, in airports, we are focused on airports. Then there is a group sitting and focusing on airlines. Then there is another group sitting and focusing on aircraft or aircraft manufacturing. We see aviation, which is the right way to do, is to integrate all these three. Because my gain could be airlines' loss, or airlines' gain could be my loss. But if we want a win-win situation, we have to bring a balance of all the three forces together. Of course, when we say that the intention of airports, airlines, and all, as I said, is the same. The priorities are the same. I mean, satisfying and ultimately exceeding customer satisfaction and delight. I mean, that's the whole idea. But this is what the commonality is. But then the models differ. Each one has its own model of business. Airports, airlines, and aircraft production have different business models. Airports require long-term planning because, you know, you build an airport for 100 to 200 years, 150 to 100 years, and then you expand or put another modules and all. Airlines, generally, the age which we expect is between 10 to 15 years for the best utilization period. We have seen in our own lifetime how many have come and gone. 707 went away, 747 went away. You see, because every few years, new technology comes and new aircraft appear. So they have different models. And aircraft has a hybrid model. So the idea is that a composite business model has thus to be evolved where airports are gateways to growth. The whole idea is that. Airlines continue to develop into mega alliances, and aircraft are evolving as icons of engineering, which they are. Yet the focus being on the passenger as the first foremost frontier. You know what happens is that the passenger becomes a very small entity in those large airports and sitting in an A380, a tiny little passenger. But for us, passenger is what we should cherish and assist. And there has to be a seamless connectivity between all three. As they rightly say that the strength of any chain is in the weakest link. So you can see in this image that if you have one weak link, the entire chain will snap. This is what has happened in my experience at airports. If you just neglect one part of it, the entire system goes. And that's not only for one airport. We are all airports around the world tied up with this chain. One weakness anywhere at any airport, because our aircraft is going to touch maybe 6 stations, any weakness at any point can break the entire system. So the important thing is that innovation is in now. And textbook solutions are out. I just mentioned about those books which we used to worship when we were, and unfortunately even in, I just did my doctorate from Brazil, and I used to go to the libraries. You still find those 30 years old books which we studied in college, and maybe some more. Okay, this is just to say that if we want to do something in aviation in a big way, we have to have a vision. This is what Swami Vivekananda said, that when a blind man asked that, okay, it's nice you preaching such big things, I am blind, what is there for me? Then Swami said that, no, you don't have to have eyes to understand, you have to have vision which is in the mind. Now, we take a few minutes, sir, only on the future. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Thank you very much. In case you have any questions, you're most welcome to raise them. And
Thank you very much indeed, sir, for that informative presentation and address we had from you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have with us today Shri Kapil Kaul, CEO CAPA, Southeast Asia, who is based in the New Delhi office of Center for Asia Pacific Aviation, established in the year 2003. He is responsible for the delivery of all India-based consulting and research projects. He has over 25 years of experience in the aviation and the hospitality industry. Previous roles include that of Product Manager, ITC Welcome Group, Vice President, East West Airlines, Chief General Manager, Air Sahara, Vice President, Crown Air, and many more. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Shri Kapil Kaul for his address.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and to Mr. Singh for an excellent presentation. Let me at the outset thank the organizers for inviting me, General Seth, Mr. Agarwal, and all the organizing committee members for this invitation. And I really thank you for inviting me, and I am glad to share our views. When I first looked at the topic, which is this morning, I'm sorry I actually missed it, and I was going to Mr. Baba's LinkedIn to see what the subject is today. But when we talk about aviation growth, and we seem to be fascinated by the aviation growth, everybody's talking about India is going to be number 3, number 4, number 3 at least, stay at number 3 for a while. But there's very rarely that you see people talking about that this growth needs matching infrastructure, it needs support services so that this growth can be managed effectively. And that perhaps to me is very rare in terms of debates and discussions that happen at conferences. So in a sense, this is a very appropriate topic. Let me start by saying, what does infrastructure mean to us? And what does infrastructure mean to all of you? When we normally talk about infrastructure, we would talk about infrastructure in terms of airport capacity. And within that airport capacity, we only talk about terminal infrastructure. Infrastructure, and I will go a little detailed in the later part of my presentation. Infrastructure is just not airports. There is airspace, excess, extra. So we shouldn't limit infrastructure just from the airport perspective, that to terminals. But for me, the broader aspect of infrastructure is that you need physical infrastructure, you need intellectual infrastructure, you need digital infrastructure, you would need governance infrastructure, and you need institutional infrastructure. As Mr. Singh rightly said, these must be integrated. You can't have airport infrastructure and no institutional infrastructure. You can't have airport infrastructure and no, let's say, governance and infrastructure, leadership infrastructure. So infrastructure is a little broad-based. So let me start with saying that we are at a very, very exciting phase. I have seen this industry on a 24/7 basis for the last 21 years. Let me say that's the first time I'm feeling that we have the foundational infrastructure to achieve what we want to achieve, and India is in a very unique place. I'll start by saying how and why we are in this unique place. Number one, after a long time, and I think this was visible in 2004 to 8, that we will have an emergence of a very stable airline system. But unfortunately, the airline system was anything but stable. We lost billions of dollars. And frankly, the unstable airline system has created a havoc we don't estimate it across the value chain, whether it's airports or general aviation or airspace, across the value chain. It has created an impact, maybe we don't think about it. How have we reached the stable airline system? Number one, after Air India's privatization, which to me, I've been repeating this for a while now, is a very game-changing reform. We may think it's just privatization and government has parked its challenges and problems with Tatas, but it's a redefining moment for Indian sector, aviation sector. That privatization of Air India and the structure that he brings, plus Indigo, gives you the foundation for taking bold next steps in aviation. Together, both of them have a fleet order of about 1,500 aircrafts. The value of that order, not in the list terms, but in terms of the actual price. I'm not accounting for inflation and escalations there, but generally it's about $100 billion. And this is just for 10 years. After 10 years, in the next 5-6 years, they would need to order more for the next 10. So that airline system has the balance sheet to support this growth. We never had a balance sheet in airlines, except Indigo. We didn't have, rest of the airlines don't have the balance sheet to support the growth. So we have an airline system which is the balance sheet, which is the cash, which is determination, is building a world-class product, doing everything to create world-class airlines. We must take advantage of that. Otherwise, frankly, we will be back to where we were. Second, for the first time, we have an airport infrastructure which is ahead of demand, possibly because of COVID. We have the metro infrastructure, and I'm not getting into this debate of structural capacity versus theoretical. Let's say the capacity available right now in metros is about 500 million, 500 to 550 million. We may end up achieving lesser, but about 500 to 550 million. The Adani airports are going to build another 150, 200 million. And Airports Authority of India is spending a lot of money, and with the privatization of these 25 airports, we should be looking at in the next 10 years roughly a 900 sort of a million to $1 billion airport capacity. We never had this before. So along with the airlines, stable airline system and the kind of investment they're making in the fleet, it is very important to have the airport infrastructure ahead of demand, and we have that. That's the first time we have it. So that's the other positive aspect. Again, India must take advantage of it. India must take advantage of these two solid pillars of a stable airline system and a world-class infrastructure in place. Third, the travel appetite in India is not just going to limit to 2030 to 2035. It will last for most of the 21st century. If you see our per capita consumption of domestic and international, we are way at the bottom, and an upside which could last a decade. So India must take advantage of that. But when we talk about these three positive advantages, we have to also say that how is our institutional mechanism to support this growth? What do we have in DGCA, for example? What kind of a DGCA is required to build and manage this growth? What kind of an airspace is required to manage this growth? What kind of training infrastructure is required to manage this growth? What kind of security architecture you will require to manage this growth? What kind of a governance model that you is required to take this growth? Because if we do say that Air India is investing, Indigo is investing, we have the capacity for about, let's say, 7, 8 years, 9 years, there's growth appetite, and we leave these institutions the way they are, I think we're heading for a big trouble. So it's very important that we look at these institutions if we have to take advantage of this opportunity. And I can say this with confidence, having tried our best to analyze what is required, and we do this very regularly. This is the fundamental duty of the government to recast these institutions, rebuild these institutions. You cannot grow. It's like your pipeline will get congested, saturated if these institutions are not built the way you want. So, along with the pillar of a good airport system, at least for the next 7 years, a good airline system, great appetite for growth, we must make sure that our institutions are overhauled. And again, India must take advantage of it, because this time it would very rarely come back. Second is the choices that we need to make. We must think back. It's a choice like India has to make a choice. Do we want to be China or we want to be United States? Similarly, aviation has to make a choice. What do we want to be next 20 years? Is it just creating jobs, or it is creating higher earning jobs? How much contribution can aviation make to direct, indirect, induced catalytic impact, which we must measure and be happy about that we have played a very important role in the socio-economic transformation of the country. So we must make these choices. But before we make the choices, we must set the basic rules in place. Before we talk about whether we need incremental or we need transformational changes and who will lead it, what kind of a leadership is required for that. First is to say that please, for God's sake, let's get the tax structure correct. You cannot think that airlines will be sustained and profitable and the private funds will continue to pump in money to support what arguably is the worst tax structure in a punitive fiscal regime on airlines across the world. 20% of the direct and indirect taxes are 20% of airline revenues. Depends upon which quarter you take. It may be higher in one, slightly lesser in the other. So before we think of what choices we need to make, let's get the basics right. Let's get the get the tax structure right before we say that we need to decide what kind of an aviation system we require. Now, after, if we are able to set the tax structure right, the second important factor is that do we need an incremental change or we need a transformational change? Let me explain what I mean. Incremental is that we are happy with what airport infrastructure we have. We could say that we have about $500 million, good for next 7-10 years. But as you know, and we have stalwarts here from airport, you need an airport capacity that lasts a generation. So it may be incremental to think that we are good for next 5-7 years. But frankly, from a transformational perspective, we are inadequate still. And I'll explain that in a minute. If we are happy with incremental changes we are making at DGCA, frankly, again, we will lose this opportunity. If we are happy the way ANS is working, they're doing a good job, but transformation requires to unleash it. If we are happy with the incremental changes at BCAS, we are happy with our FTOs and the SIM infrastructure we have, particularly FTOs, the quality they churn, the AME infrastructure that we have, the quality they churn. We may make incremental progress, keep moving the needle, keep moving the structure, but we will lose the advantage that we are currently at. So my view is that we must not be focused on incremental changes. We must look at transformational changes. And I will talk about the transformational changes in a minute. It's very close to my heart. For 20 years, I'm talking about it. I think there is never a time than now to take this opportunity to say that if India is going to be a 5 trillion, 10 trillion, 20 trillion, aviation and connectivity is to play a very, very critical role. We can't be incrementalist. We can't be happy by taking few steps. We have to make sure that the market that we are in needs a transformational approach. For that, you'd have to rework and look back and say, what does this new architecture look like? First, for me, somebody has to take leadership for this. We can talk about conferences for years. We can talk about with clients. We can give policy papers. Somebody has to raise hands and say that I am responsible. I will provide that leadership which will transform this sector. That's the first starting point. Second is, if you look at what that new architecture is, and I explained that the new architecture to me is just not physical infrastructure, is institutional infrastructure, is digital infrastructure, is intellectual infrastructure, is about governance and leadership infrastructure. And in many ways, there are many other elements. Let's talk about these 5. So when I look at the physical infrastructure, our friends in the airport, and there is a lot of airport expertise that's in the room. As I said at the beginning of my presentation, we think that the airports are just basically terminals. Airlines, let me tell you, we have the former chief of ANS here. Airlines are not aware what's happening in here. Pilots may know, people from ANS may know, other people may know, broadly at a leadership level. Nobody's aware what's happening. So when we talk about infrastructure, we think terminals is what is required, and that should do. So you have to talk about airspace, you have to talk about airport infrastructure. We forget about excess infrastructure. We saw what happened in Bangalore. We saw what happened in Hyderabad. It takes 2-3 years for that excess infrastructure to be feasible for a passenger. So if we require this transformational architecture and we talk about physical infrastructure, we must ensure it's not terminal. It's airspace. It's excess infrastructure. It must have multimodal integration. Because again, as we are growing in India, without multimodal integration, you won't reach anywhere. In many ways, if you go deeper, then it's just not airports. It is heliports, if you have to build a heliport industry, helicopter industry. It's general aviation. It's maintenance, repair, and overhaul. And frankly speaking, one of the biggest opportunities in India to create high-earning jobs is to unleash the power of Indian aviation by just removing all the barriers on MROs. We have the ability of the private entrepreneurs to build world-class MROs, but I think they are stifled with unnecessary regulatory and fiscal practices. So it is not just airports, it's airspace, it's heliport, it's maintenance, it's general aviation, it's eVTOLs. You just heard Indigo is going to bring few hundred of eVTOLs flying from Gurgaon to Delhi in 5 minutes. What does the DGCA require? What is the safety architecture we require? What is the institutional architecture we require? So physical infrastructure is just not terminals. That's number one. Second is, how do you finance this infrastructure? You may require, and we have, I can see in the audience, the finance people from AI, if you require 50 to 80 to $100 billion of investment over the next 20 years, you need private capital of about 30, 40 billion dollars. So you may require $1.5, $2 billion of risk-free capital. Or, private equity capital, not a risk-free capital, private equity capital. Where is in the capacity in India to put $1.5, $2 billion every year? How do we unleash that if we have to build this infrastructure? So that's on the physical infrastructure side. Let me talk, which is something which has been my favorite. I am normally not liked for speaking this. We have a very archaic institutional infrastructure. And we cannot even think of moving ahead if we don't break this institutional infrastructure. And I did talk about in the beginning, can we have the DGCA in a tech world? Look at what's happening with Pratt & Whitney engine. Look at what's happening with LEAP. The technology is so superior that even FAA can't understand. We saw what happened with FAA in case of Boeing, which had lethal flight design flaws. We are seeing supply chain issues on durability and QC with Pratt & Whitney and perhaps LEAP engines. It's a cutting edge technology. You will see more of that cutting edge technology. Do we require a DGC in a legacy mode? Or we say, let's overhaul it and create it independent DGCA. Mr. Agarwal is aware that we had talked about, like we have CAA UK, we should have CAA India, run by experts, a different architecture to run it. We cannot continue with DGCA like this. Similarly, BCAS. Today, technology is critical for security architecture. But what we normally do is to get more and more people. More people we have at airports, the risk increases. It should have the balance between technology as well as people. So you have to overhaul BCAS. Second, which is maybe more appropriate for this audience, we've been talking about that we must overhaul ANS. We must hive off ANS. Frankly, I don't know what's the problem. If Government of India can write off 60,000 crores on Air India, one of the biggest and boldest reforms, what does it take to hive off ANS? We are getting into a dual airport system. You need to redesign the airspace. And some of it you would need to do when Navi Mumbai and Mumbai is coming, and for example, Delhi and Noida is coming. With this growth architecture, you cannot have ANS like this. Other factor which government in many ways is taking a directional change is, what's the future of Airports Authority of India? All of you are products of Airports Authority of India. You have most of the airports in private sector, 80% of the traffic, 25 more will be required. But with that, we must know that the money that it is generated through the revenue share, where is it going to be used? How is it going to be used? There must be a plan for it. So you need a future of Airports Authority of India. Without that, we'll be always in this challenge that privatization is a bad thing. And one of the best things that the government has done is to keep privatizing loss-making assets, get revenue out of it, and invest that wherever appropriate. Policy and regulation, tech changing. We live in a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain world. In that world and the tech disruption and the digital disruption world, what kind of a policy competence we require? What kind of a regulatory competence we require? We must ask ourselves and overhaul it. Then there are three pillars which are critical, and I may just re-emphasize that. When an airline has, two airlines have 90% market share, though I don't see any anti-competitive behavior because there's going to be intense competition between them, who will re-overhaul the consumer protection system? Who will overhaul the competition protection system. Where will it happen? Currently, if flights are delayed, and I can tell you again and again, the basics as per the CAR are not met by airlines. We have an on-time performance about 50%, 60% now, but go and talk to a passenger, we are all passengers. As per the CAR, are we getting anything? So how can we grow this pipeline, which is fundamental to our growth, which is a market which we have inherited, and transform? If the DGCA works like this, BCAS works like this, ANS works like this, there's uncertainty on the future of Airport Authority of India, policy regulation, competition, consumer. You cannot have that in a legacy mode. You have to transform it. So that's the second part, that architecture is required. Digital, all of you know, artificial intelligence, machine learning, quantum computing, intelligent machines. Let me give you one example of what it will do, and I'll cover that in the intellectual infrastructure part. Airlines have a revenue management department. Normally 50, 60 analysts to manage flights, manage revenues, which is critical. Few years from now, maybe you have 50 intelligent machines. Because you have now the quantum computing data, you will be better getting revenue results by having 90% into artificial intelligence and machine learning and intelligent machines, let's say. Same goes across the workforce. So important it is for us to understand how digital is going to change, and I made a presentation recently that there is a distinct possibility of human beings working with robots. Do you know what it does to the organization, what kind of a culture we want? So this disruption on digital infrastructure must be understood, that if we are going to grow at, let's say, 15% per year, are we going to create more jobs or less jobs? What kind of a jobs will we create? Because certain jobs will get eliminated. Certain jobs maybe get enhanced. Where is that training infrastructure on the digital side? Lastly, two more things on the intellectual infrastructure. Frankly, training and HR is forgotten in this growth equation. Whether it is at the institution level, DGCA and Airports Authority of India, ANS, or it is at an airline and airport, it is just regulatory must-do for pilots and cabin crew and AMEs, but the kind of changes that are required, intellectual infrastructure is missing. So without that intellectual infrastructure, can we grow? We have some youngsters here who are from aviation schools maybe. I hope they're aware that in the next 3 to 5 years where the aviation is going to be, and do I have the skill sets? And aren't we as an institution going to be aware that why am I having these small mushroom cabin crew schools when you can do that online in a better manner? So digital infrastructure is, intellectual infrastructure is the other element, training, education, in a manner that will add value to the kind of growth that we are looking. Lastly, leadership and governance. Corporate governance for sure, but leadership, a very critical element to take care of this transformational growth. Now the choices all of us as an industry have to make. People who are responsible, have position, have a voice, must decide, do we want an incremental growth? Or we want to make sure that we are going to take advantage of the fundamental architecture which is evolving to take us to where we want to be. For that, we need a transformational growth. So you would need physical, institutional, intellectual, governance, and digital all integrated together. Now, before we talk about that, it's a humongous task. It's not very easy. We have been having people in the planning here. How difficult it is to create a 20-year transformational architecture which spans in a fast-changing world. So before you talk about any infrastructure, I have always said that you must have the planning infrastructure for it. Who is going to plan for it? Do they have the capabilities? Do they have the capacity, because the world is changing so fast? Who plans for it? Where is that competence? So first we must set up that planning infrastructure in order to be able to do this transformational thing. Finally, is where is the executional capability? That also requires experience, expertise in this fast-changing world. So if we have to be incremental, we should be fine, because we are okay with moving incremental, will still create jobs, will be still very competitive, will be still critical for this economy. But I don't think we will be what we want to be if we don't take a step change, transform, and relook at aviation in a very, very holistic and different manner, and then create whatever infrastructure we require to grow. Finally, what about Indian firms moving and owning assets outside? How do we encourage them? We have seen GMR today, excellent job in making international, building international assets. Adani's, perhaps when GVK was there. How do we ensure that India has a global footprint? We have assets in Eastern Europe coming, we have assets in Middle East coming. How do we encourage Indian companies to have a more global footprint? That's also indirectly going to create more jobs and more value. Do we see in Indigo, for example, an only an Indian entity? Or you want to see Indigo like AirAsia, which has, let's say, cross-border JVs? Air India having cross-border JVs. We have MROs in GMR and in Indimar and plus Airworks. Aren't we going to be basically saying that we can look at global assets? So my view, ladies and gentlemen, is, and I'm sorry to say that after a great presentation by Mr. Singh, I'm just talking about basics again, talking about fundamentals, because frankly, in many ways, it's very tiring to analyze the sector. On one side, you have a greatest opportunity. On the other side, you're still taking baby steps and incremental steps to growth. Though a lot has been done in the last 4 or 5 years, or 6 years, or 7 years. But what we require and what we do, the gap will continue to grow. And frankly speaking, every 2-3 years will be inadequate. I had told in a couple of forums recently the government that this government has the ability to take these bold decisions. If you could take a decision on Air India and write off 60,000 crores, it's not a small decision. People have signed for it. They did this in national interest. If you can take this decision, I think this government has the ability to say, I want to make aviation as a critical pillar of our economy. If I want to bring more socio-economic changes, for that, transformational changes is fundamental, and we must build the capabilities, competence, and capacities to take advantage of it. India, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't seen for 21 years a more optimism in the sector as it is today. And we must take advantages of it. We will frankly tell all these youngsters here that an entry-level job is not 20, could be 50. Right now, after COVID, people are not wanting to join the sector. So it's important that we take advantages with change, make sure that we are responsible, and we should do whatever it is required to take those steps. I don't have anything to say, I don't want to share any data, but I think I wanted to share with you that I'm very optimistic about the sector, but I'm also very defeatist that we are taking so many small steps, whereas we should take giant steps. This leadership of this government has the ability to take these giant steps, and we are awaiting that for aviation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are also honored to have, sharing the days with us, our very special guest, Shri Sanjeev Razdanji, who is presently Chairman and Managing Director of Pawan Hans Limited, is an experienced aerospace professional with a demonstrated history of working in the airlines and the aviation industry. He is skilled in operations management, aircraft maintenance, airworthiness management, and aeronautics. Helicopter services professional with a Master of Business Administration focused in aerospace from ESC Toulouse. Experienced aerospace professional has demonstrated history of working in the airlines aviation industry. And ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together to welcome Shri Sanjeev Razdanji for his kind address.
Thank you. Respected General Seth Saab, other dignitaries on the dais, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. After I think Kapil Ji's speech, I think I am being left with nothing to say because he has covered each and every aspect of the infrastructure, institutional requirements, the requirement of the human resources, digital platforms. He has, in fact, covered every aspect which needs a focused approach from the perspective of increasing our global footprint in the aviation. I represent a very small segment of the aviation, if we may say, only representing the helicopters as on date. And when we talk about helicopters, the infrastructure requirement, I think very few people will be knowing what is happening around that. The infrastructure requirement, if I may say, because we have spent almost same time period in the industry, talking from the baby steps of developing maybe one single heliport in somewhere in J&K, which got operational and has become a success story. But thereafter, we didn't had major transformational setups where we had generated or we had created, developed hundreds of heliports to replicate the success of one of the operations. But these steps, I do agree, are important because they give us the insight into what we are getting into it and where we want to lead in terms of after gaining an experience. And this is the right time when I mean, as already agreed by the earlier speakers also, that we are in a positive frame of mind, frame of governance, industries, partners, everyone is in a positive frame and is looking forward to taking a leap steps in terms of transforming the Indian aviation, which has been seeing the growth for last almost 8 to 9 years. Whether it is infrastructure, from 130 to, we have already reached 155 airports and heliports put together and are aspiring to have 220 in next couple of years. With increase in number of these airports, of course, the other elements, whether it is ATM, whether it is handling of the airports, airlines, number of aircraft to be handled, the parallel services which are required on both sides, I'll say in terms of air side as well as the city side in a airport language, that we need to cater for every aspect of it, and there is a growth in everything what we do in as far as the aviation is concerned. Now coming to the helicopters are one of the slow platform in terms of the aircraft flying machines, and that's why we are not in current scenario welcomed at major airports. We are because we tend to slow down the business what the airports and the airlines do if they are operating out of a major airport. We are not welcomed as far as the helicopters are concerned. So it becomes even more important to have a separate infrastructure for helicopters, and the need has been felt over a period of, I'll put it in 5 to 6 years, last 5 to 6 years, the need has been felt that we need to have a heliport infrastructure in place. And that has started from the need of the our hilly states, which definitely need these infrastructure because of the constraint on the land availability and you can't have airports in a small area, too many airports, which will not serve the purpose in terms of financial viability. So what is important is why the states or why country should have the heliport is to complement the airline operations, but not to hinder each other. Because if helicopters are operating, airline gets impacted. If airlines are operating, helicopters cannot grow. So it has to have the parallel infrastructure, and both have their own unique role to play in the aviation sector. And there, where the helicopters are versatile in operation and they can do various kinds of operations, for that, they should not be disturbing the airline business which is operating out of the airports. So even if we see on the global platforms, all the major airports have a separate corridor for the helicopters. They don't interfere in the normal airline business. And that's how both industries are thriving in the developed countries, and we aspire to be a developed country. And that's what we are looking at from the perspective that we need to grow and become a developed country. So both these infrastructures have to be in place, and they have to complement each other. And that's where the role comes from our perspective, the helicopter industry perspective, that we develop, we support, and we also operate out of these heliports which are coming up. The first question which somebody asked me a few years back, that why we need heliports or helipads when machines are very versatile and they can operate out of the airport. Go to any of the helipads which have been temporarily created and the job is done. Why we need it? The foremost factor which we tend to forget is any operation, air operation, has to be safe. And if it has to be safe, it also has to follow certain levels or standards of operations, and they are possible only when you have a standardized kind of an infrastructure, standardized operational air operations, and there is a continuity into that. And if I may say that around 20 years back when we were operating in various parts of the country, we used to have the helipads in the grounds, playgrounds, which are created for some period of time, maybe one odd operation, and if next time I have to ask, the coordinates change. Because now it is a different ground, which, again, adds up to the concerns of the crew, because crew is not now, he has to again practice whether he's been able to go to the new site, and that whether that site is obstruction-free, and other SOPs are to be seen whether they can land in that place. So that's where the country needs, especially in the hill states, where the terrain is tough. You have a situation where you can't have the airport at every place. You need to have a infrastructure which is obstruction-free. It should have a clear approach and takeoff and landing area. And on top of it, once it has become a regular heliport, then it needs it is actually a miniature version of the airports. And if airports are, spread across 3,000, 4,000 acres of land, a minimum area required for a heliport is around 4 to 5 acres. So you can see that it is a scaled-down version of the airports, and it actually requires each and every element what you have in the airport in a smaller scale, because you are handling the passengers at a very small scale. A regular heliport, if I may say, if the operation is once a day, is handling roughly around 5 to 8 passengers, and the ones which are doing good numbers of flights, you have around 500 to 1,000 passengers per day being, passing through that heliport. So the scale is very, in terms of less than 1% of what airlines are doing. But from safety perspective, the infrastructure perspective, the requirements are almost same. Though now there has been a change, because earlier we were flying completely under airlines rules. Now there are changes which have happened over a period of time in the DGCA, which has permitted the operation on a scaled down measures, but not compromising with the safety of the operation. In Northeast, if I may say, or in Himachal or J&K or Uttarakhand, the role of helicopters is very important, and that's where these states do need the heliports, and there is a lot of work which is, as of now, going on in developing these. The reason is these places cannot have airports, and they need a last mile connectivity, and what best than the helicopters. And these helicopters not only are supporting the passengers or the people in the remote areas, but at the same time they are also helping the government in terms of governance, whether it is in a law and order. And I can quote you one aspect. We recently as in 2 years earlier, we have reached a place in somewhere in Leh, Ladakh region, where nobody from the government had reached the last village in 70 years. And those people were not aware what they are supposed to get from the government and how the government can support them. And getting a casualty or a patient out of a place where nobody could imagine that they can also have the facility of a hospital, which is just 40 minutes away from your destination. And that's the kind of impact which the helicopters have in these areas. And that's where we definitely need an infrastructure which should support these operations. A typical heliport will, in a normal course, handle maybe 10 to 15 passengers, but once the infrastructure has developed, if you see from the perspective of the two heliports which I will quote, Mata Vaishno Devi heliport or Kedarnath, you can see the number of passengers and number of operators which has increased over a period of time. That's where the acceptability, the availability of facility, availability of operations, which becomes more viable, is only after you have various aspects of the infrastructure which are made available, which is in terms of helicopters, which is an assets, movable assets, then physical infrastructure in terms of heliport, and other requirements of pilots, crew, MROs, activities which supports the complete ecosystem. And that's exactly what is required also in helicopter industry. Currently, and what is the role of Pawan Hans in all this? The Pawan Hans had been started as a helicopter operator to support various activities of offshore as well as the connecting the northeast region and other hilly regions. But now we have, over a period of time, gained an experience, and we have also diversified in providing the consultancy in the heliport development of the infrastructure. And this, we are now currently supporting around 75 heliports across 15 states where these development is taking place. Though it's a very minuscule numbers, but they are of very significant importance because they are going to connect your strategic locations in the northeast, strategic location in Uttarakhand, as well as in the Himachal and J&K and Leh. And that's where it becomes very important that these infrastructure come up and we are able to operate out of these places. Due to our experience and supporting the first development of Rohini heliports, which every one of you know, which was conceptualized in 2010-11, got built up in 2017, and once a concept, as pointed out, baby step had taken up, we could demonstrate the development of the heliport, and that has now started, replicating across the country, even in south states, where that has become a model. But only the scale keeps changing depending upon what is the operation envisaged in these particular areas. And we have been nominated, or we can say we have been designated as a nodal agency for heliport development by the ministry, and we support all the heliports which are bid, or the sectors which are bid for the heliport operations. If there is a helipad requirement there, we are supporting and getting it developed through the ministry. If we see only the northeast region, currently we have around 30 heliports which are being developed, and there is additional requirement of more than 126 heliports in this area which are going to come up. So maybe in another 3 to 4 years, we will have completely fully developed around 200 heliports across different states. And that's where the beginning will happen, where we will have more and more helipads and heliports coming up in other states also. And as you must be aware that all these express highways which are being developed are also being developed with a master plan of having at least one helipad at every 50 kilometers, and especially it has started with Delhi-Mumbai corridor. And that's what we are looking at, that it will come up. And once these infrastructures are available, at the same time, the other institutional requirements which needs to be developed, which is in terms of having a FTO in helicopters, which has recently one has started. We look forward that it will, more and more people will find interesting with the vision that there will be more helicopters flying in the near future, and that's where we will need more pilots, we will need more engineers, and other related infrastructure. Pawan Hans has also to, as rightly said, that since we need a human resource which should be capable of handling these operations. So we have 2 institutes as on date. We are also providing the support in terms of skill development by having a AME Institute, which is in Mumbai and Delhi, where we are producing the skilled manpower, and they have the access to our complete infrastructure which is available in Mumbai and Delhi. So they are getting hands-on industry experience while they are studying. And at the same time, with the parallel tie-up with the universities, the students are also getting the graduation degrees from the Mumbai as well as the Jamia University. So effectively, as an operator, we started as an operator, we have diversified in the institutional development in terms of producing more engineers, also developing the heliport. We only are now looking at that maybe we may have to look for an FTO also, where we can train the pilots also, so that we can increase the number of helicopters, so that the penetration of helicopter operation increases, and as well as the we are able to, maybe since we are planning to be a developed country by 2047, by that time we should be a fully operational HEMS operator, as well as the country should have the helicopter emergency medical service available across the country, around the all the highways, because these highways are bound to have its own difficulties in terms of, because once we get into those speeds and we end up having accidents. And that's where our role will further increase, and that's definitely a transformational requirement that we all out go in terms of developing the infrastructure, increasing the number of FTOs, increasing the number of engineers, increasing the number of technical people who will support the digital platform, because nowadays we are also working on various digital platforms which are supporting the maintenance, which is supporting the online ticketing system. Helicopters also have gone into online ticketing system as the airlines, and other aspects of revenue planning in terms of which routes we need to develop in the hill areas, which will be definitely looking from the perspective of increasing the tourism perspective. So what is the way forward? In the end, I'll say that we need to have these infrastructure, which is very essential for operation of helicopters. And what we are moving with the vision is, which was coined a few years back, but now it has become reality, is to have one heliport or helipad in one district across the country. That's the vision which we are moving in. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed, sir, for that inspirational and insightful address. Ladies and gentlemen, we are thankful to all our eminent speakers for being here with us today. And I would now like to request Lieutenant General Seth, President FAST, to do the honors of presenting a small token of gratitude and appreciation to all our eminent guests. Can we have the mementos on the stage, please? I will request General Seth to present to Shri Sanjeev Razdan, CMD Pawan Hans Limited. Thank you very much indeed, sir, once again for being here with us. We present to Shri Kapil Kaul, CEO Kappa Asia Pacific Region. And we present to Dr. Inderjeet Singh, ICAO, Airport Consultant, and formerly Airport Director, IGIA. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Sri Raman Sidhu, Chairman, EBG Federation India, is a qualified chartered accountant from the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. He is one of the senior lifetime trustees and foundation of the Foundation for Aviation and Sustainable Tourism FAST. I would now request Mr. Raman Sidhu to kindly propose the vote of thanks.
A very good morning to everyone here, esteemed guests on the panel, on the dais. I have got a one-line whip from the General that please restrict yourself to 4 minutes, but I am in a defiant mood. I'll keep it 5, but not beyond. It's Christmas time, time for hope, time for expectations, and we have moved a lot in aviation from a period when to fly a kite in our great country, you needed the approval of the Director General of Civil Aviation. I brought it to the attention of the then minister, who happened to be the late father of the current aviation minister. And he said, no, this can't be true. I said, here, see your act. And of course, it was removed later on, but I guess that was introduced at a time when the Wright brothers introduced their first aircraft. So the kite used to fly higher than that aircraft, and that's why the need for a Director General of Civil Aviation approval. A great thank you to all the speakers who have spoken at length and very incisive comments made. I must thank you, Mr. Sanjeev Razdan. More heliports is the need of the hour. And that is the only way you are doing a human service. I've flown with your in your aircraft in the Northeast a lot of times. And those people can't move around without you. So please continue that. Kapil, you said the gap has to be shortened. So to use London Metro, mind the gap, Government of India, shorten it as soon as possible based on Kapil's advice, because that is the need of the hour. I also want to thank my friend Indrajit on his comments. You know, this aviation sector is a funny sector. You can lose 1,000 people in a railway accident. It'll be passing news in a few days' time. A tire burst of an aircraft, it'll be front page the very next day. Very next day. So it is a sector with growth potential, great opportunities. Let us seize those opportunities and fulfill the gaps that are there. And let's move on. Reforms in institutions. Let's get the structure right. That was also mentioned. The tax structure is horribly wrong at the moment for such a great growth area. Let's try and sort that out. PPP model was also mentioned. Very, very critical. I've been hearing about this in MRO. MRO actually since late 1980s. India lost a huge opportunity and continues to lose opportunity. Modi Luft was introduced that time. I remember the planes used to go to Germany for servicing. Till Sri Lanka woke up and seized the opportunity and said, come to Colombo. But India never woke up that time and still hasn't woken up to MRO opportunities. Huge sector. Let's try and sort that out. I could go on and on, but I think the experts have spoken. So I rest my case, and I just want to thank you all for supporting FAST on this special occasion. General Seth had said that there is a hot environment that subsists at this point in time, and I think he was referring to our political bigwigs who were to come and grace this occasion. Now, I don't know whether that hot environment phrase is a euphemism for political exigency, but whatever it is, I thank you people, the audience, for being here and making today's event very successful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. And ladies and gentlemen, with that, we close the proceedings of the inaugural session. Once again, taking this opportunity to thank all our eminent dignitaries on the dais and thanking each one of you for being here in time and for your participation in this session. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a short tea break of 20 minutes. The next session, the first business session, will commence at 12 o'clock sharp. We request you all to be back and be seated in time for the next session. I request our dignitaries to kindly come together for a group photograph. The tea is served outside. Kindly have your tea and be back in time for the next session. All speakers of the upcoming sessions are kindly requested to load and check their presentations with us before you proceed for tea. Thank you. Request everyone to kindly be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, may we request everyone to kindly be seated. Requesting all our distinguished delegates to join us back inside the hall and be seated, please. It's time for our next business session. Ladies and gentlemen, once again requesting everyone to kindly be seated. We are ready to go ahead with the proceedings of the next session. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are all set to go ahead with the proceedings of the next session, which is our business session 1. I would like to invite on stage our distinguished moderator for the session, Shri V.P. Agarwalji, former chairman AAI and vice president FAST. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome sir. I also have the privilege in inviting eminent speakers on the stage. I invite Shri A.K. Dattaji, former member ANS, Airports Authority of India. A warm welcome to you, sir. I invite Ms. Charul Shukla, Executive Director, Architecture, AAI. A very warm welcome, ma'am. And Shri Subir Hazra, GMR Group. A very warm welcome, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, the business session 1 will deal with capacity building in airports, which will include topics such as airport infrastructure, runways additions and improvements, terminal addition and optimum utilization, airspace capacity, and allied facilities for users of airports. And the time duration for the session will be approximately 50 minutes, 50, which will include the opening and closing remarks of the moderator and presentations by all our eminent speakers for about 10 minutes each, which will be followed by the question answers round. Ladies and gentlemen, but before I hand over to the moderator, I have the proud privilege of introducing the panel. Our distinguished moderator, Mr. V.P. Agarwal, has served Airports Authority of India as its chairman for more than 5 years. During his tenure, there was a huge development and in modernization of Indian airports. He was honored as distinguished alumni by IIT Roorkee in the year 2011. Our eminent speaker, Shri A.K. Dattaji, is formerly member Air Navigation Services, Airports Authority of India, has made significant contributions in the area of civil aviation, such as planning and providing air traffic services in the Indian continental and oceanic airspace and delegated international airspace. A warm welcome to you, sir. Our eminent speaker, Mrs. Charul Shukla, is a professionally qualified architect, has been working as Executive Director Planning with Airports Authority of India, having an overall experience of about 34 years in aviation. She has qualified the Global ACI ICAO Airport Management Professional Accreditation Program, AMPAP, and was honored with the distinction of IAP, that is International Airport Professional, while working with AAI. She has been involved in design and development of various greenfield and brownfield airports across the country. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. And ladies and gentlemen, our eminent speaker, Shri Subir Hazra, is Chief Commercial and Strategy Officer at GMR Group, is known in the industry as Livewire, an executive leader and building businesses, and adept at putting business drivers and enablers sharply on focus, international business operations, leadership, commercial and strategic analysis, budgeting, knowledge management, quality assurance, process improvement, viability, financial viability analysis, evaluation of new business and acquisition opportunities, marketing and sales, international trading, business integration, and innovation. In his resplendent career spanning over 30 plus years, he has obtained multivariate and multi-rounded holistic work experience by working in the aviation industry. And a warm welcome to you too, sir. With those words of introduction, I hand over to Shri V.P. Agarwal ji, our distinguished moderator for this session, for his opening remarks and to kindly carry forward the proceedings of the session. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon to everyone. In the previous session, the speakers have aptly brought out what is to be done to meet the shortcomings in the aviation sector. And Kapil Kaul has pointed out that probably privatization of Air India was one of the transformational change. And few other changes which were started but somehow got stuck was formation of CAA and privatization of, I'll say corporatization of ANS facilities, ANS organization. But somehow it was stuck somewhere in the bureaucracy, and that, or people were not having confidence enough to do it. My colleague, Mr. A.K. Gupta, has done a lot as far as airspace capacity was concerned, like air traffic flow management and coordinating with the Air Force for surrendering some of the airspace and straightening of the routes. So a lot of it was done. So my question to him is going to be, in his deliberation, I'll request him to cover what is next we are doing as far as procedure involved for better utilization of airspace is concerned. There has been some news recently saying that probably the gapping will be reduced and it will create more airspace, but there is also the reduction in gapping comes with a certain risk. So what is being done to address that risk part? And what is happening for ANS corporatization? Why it is not happening? What is the holdup if he has a knowledge about it? So that if he covers, I'll be very happy about it. Over to Mr. A.K. Datta. अभी फॉरेन में कौन सा है? इंडोनेशिया मैदान Cebu.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to FAST for giving me an opportunity to talk on the subject, which is very much relevant, and definitely this workshop will come out with a lot of suggestions and recommendations for DGC and Ministry to try to implement that. First of all, I would thank Mr. Kapil, as I have been given only 10 minutes. So most of the topics have been covered by him. And the way he presented, his usual style of presenting and giving a SOS call, I very much agree with him. And I as a member of the board looking after ANS, I did my best, whatever I could do. There was a DGC audit, ICAO audits and DGC audits, and shortage of controllers and technical officers. During my tenure, I won't say that I was behind that, but definitely the management understood and DGC also understood. We could recruit some 1,000 controllers and equally number of CNS officers. But again, it is a step taken for the next, say, 5 years. But as he told, it has to be totally transformed. We have to make a big leap if we want to meet the demand and capacity. So again, he has already told that demand and capacity is not only airport infrastructure. There are few factors. I will cover one by one. I won't go into the planning part. But so we call such airports as constrained airports when the capacity is less than the demand. We call it a constrained airport in terms of aviation terminology. The airport capacity challenges are complex due to, number one, a rising demand of air travel. Now everybody is traveling by air. Nobody would like to spend three days and 4 nights in the train going from Delhi to Chennai or going from Delhi to Trivandrum. And cost-wise also is not much. So people, a normal person can afford to travel by air. So that is the rising demand. And slowly we are going to have larger aircraft. Our infrastructure earlier was only for, say, Airbus 320. Earlier it was even less than that. We extended our runways for Airbus 320. But again, the airlines want to have bigger aircraft. So the present airfield, I cannot extend the runway unless it is all clear around. And you know, when the airport comes, there are so many buildings and marketplaces coming just in front of airport. So we do not get that obstacle limitation surfaces. We have a lot of constraints in going for the larger runways because of the obstruction around. So that won't be safe. Restrictions for the airport passenger terminals. Again, we don't have space to construct so many terminal buildings. And my topic here is basically lack of available airspace. You must be knowing, and Delhi is a very sensitive place. Our one-third airspace is rather one-fourth, you can say, covered by so many restricted areas and prohibited areas. So we cannot bring aircraft from all the sides. Whereas at other airports, where there are no restrictions, I can bring aircraft from east, west, north, south. Here it is not possible because we have to avoid some airspace. I think this presentation, when I talk about airspace planning and airspace infrastructure, I would like to say that as Mr. Agarwal has told what we have done in airspace capacity enhancement. See, during 2015, we had a very good committee and meeting with the Air Force people and Army people, and we call that concept as flexible use of airspace. We have come up with more than 100 routes which are CDR. CDR is conditional routes. You know, the Air Force people, they generally fly in daytime. So night time their airspace is free. So now they have agreed to give their airspace to us during night when they are not operating. So with that, international airlines, even our airlines, those who are overflying from east to west, west to east, they are saving hundreds of tons of fuel because their route has become short. Otherwise, they'll route from one place going to Jaipur and then from other places like that. So now with modern equipment, Mr. Agarwal is there. During his time, we had secondary radars and lot of automation systems. So controllers feel comfortable giving direct routing. Otherwise, during my time in 1990s, we were having only primary radars. So with primary radars, the controllers are not very, you can say, confident in giving the direct routings. And that was not possible also. So with increased traffic, we have come up with flexible use of airspace. That is one. CDRs, there are three types of CDRs. CDRs, one is Air Force tells us that night time you can take the airspace from us. The airline taking off from London or maybe some eastern side, they can very well plan their route and they can fly direct from one point to the other point because they are all under radar surveillance. So we have introduced some more technical technologies like ADS-B, in which radar is not required. The aircraft is transmitting and the surveillance picture is coming on the radar scope. So with that, again, we are having more and more surveillance. So that is another thing. Reduction of separation, again, that is required. But see, in civil aviation, if you want to implement something new, you have to have the certified equipments. Your controllers should be trained accordingly. There are so many things, and you have to see that you are meeting the target level of safety, because safety is the uppermost, that's the most important thing for an air traffic controller and in aviation. Because any air traffic controller having one incident in his life will have nightmares. Even if an incident has not taken place, there is some break in separation, they cannot sleep. And again, if they are not at fault, still they are derostered from the duty, and a lot of mental torture is there. So these are the things, and you must be knowing that earlier we were using 2 runways at Palam Airport. I was a working controller in IGI Airport in 1990. There was one day when I used I was in the approach control on radar, the most important channel. I handled 31 aircraft in 1 hour. And that was the achievement. The past, we used to have 29 or 20 movements and so. But that time we handled 31. I was feeling so proud. See, with 2 runways and primary radar at that time, we handled 31 movements. I just took data from the ATC now from IGI Airport. With 4 runways, they are having 90 movements per hour. Addition is only 2 runways, which all we cannot use at a time. You have to use only 2 runways or maybe 3 runways. So you can say that it has tripled, and separation was 8 miles earlier. Now it is 3 miles in approach. But still, for safety, there are so many constraints which we have to see. there are so many things which I cannot right now explain you, but definitely Airport Authority as ANS, our people, our officers are members of the task force on ICAO. Mr. Kaul may be knowing. This ADS-B task force, we have held so many meetings. So most of the task force which are for the improvement of ANS infrastructure in Asia Pacific, even in headquarters also, ICAO headquarters, our officers are members of that. They are task force members. They are attending meetings. But again, things have to come slowly. Safety is the most important thing. And as he has asked about what is going on in ANS, when Sir was there, it was, I think, in the final stage. I was that time executive director. My member had gone somewhere on ICAO meeting. It was finalized, but I can't comment on that. That is a government has to take the decision. So I think the other part I can, if time permits, I can say a few more things. Those factors affecting the capacity. Physical, actually if you don't have your own this thing. Okay. Available land on and off the airport, environmental issues like emissions. We have noise control procedures, like people staying in Dwarka, I also stay in Dwarka. So we have to distribute the noise in all the sites, like not only in Dwarka every time. Then taxiway terminal technology, airport and airline business model. So it is very good that airlines are telling I am going to buy 500 aircraft in future. Maybe every year we are going to have two new aircraft. But they may consult the ministry. They may say, okay, you have a apron where you can park your aircraft. Main problem is parking. But nobody asks whether I am able to handle the aircraft in air. Then somebody has to hold. If you are coming to Delhi and the pilot says 30 minutes delay because of ATC, how do you feel? You start cursing us. But you don't know the person sitting there. All my hair is gone because of all this doing ATC. So they are trying their best. I think they are the best judges how to have safety, as well as our main training is like that, to have safe and expeditious and economical air traffic. So we try to give minimum delays, but you can't help when these things are happening. So this I want. Another thing is that terrain, I can say, there are airports where a lot of terrains are there. You cannot have procedures, straight-in approaches and all that. So we have to have a circuitous landing and departures. So that is another constraint. See, we don't have room for vital installations. When I want to install a Cat 3 ILS, you have to have some certain conditions where taxiway has to be so much apart, then a localizer has to have some distance, clear distance. So we can't do that. Then obstacle also help is in arrival departure. Larger aircraft need longer and wider runways. So increasing number of newer airports is a major challenge to design the route network over definite airspace. Restricted airspaces, I am very thankful to Air Force and because they understand now. So they have given a lot of their restricted airspace to us to fly during when they are not flying. We are having hotlines with them so that when they are not flying, okay, you can take over the airspace, like in Indon. So we take over the airspace, the aircraft is saving not less than say 30 or 40 miles, coming straight from north and coming and landing. Then environmental constraints like fog. Nowadays, if somebody has to travel, you are not sure whether you will be able to take off and when you are going to land, and whether finally where we land is, suppose we are going to Jaipur. Jaipur again is a fog bound now. So where you will go? So all these things are there, which we have to, these are all natural phenomena. So you can't control them, but definitely you can check that. And we have started the air traffic flow management. Whenever there is conditions below the visibility conditions, we start doing the air traffic flow management, in which all airlines are participating, Air Force is participating, all the operators are participating, they are sitting there, and they tell, yes, this particular flight is important because it has connections. So they deliberate amongst themselves and they give priority to that aircraft. So that slot allocation is dynamic that time. And they have very good understanding. We have thousands of meetings for going through this procedure. And definitely we are doing good to nation when we save a lot of fuel. Otherwise, again, once you take off, you are not able to land, you have to hold. That means you are burning fuel only. So that air traffic flow management is another technology which only few countries are having. But India we started in 2018. Then lot of closures of airport. See, when I was in Palam, the Air Force show was held in Palam. So you have to close the airspace for 3-4 hours. So now it is being handled at Hindon. So these are the things that we brought lot of improvements. So how to win these constraints? Like Mr. Kaul has said, we should have long-term vision. We should have properly manage our resources, process optimization, know the business trend, kitne jahaj la rahe hain, airlines, how many aircraft they are bringing, harnessing technology and agile methodology. So these are the things where we can do something for the future. Thank you so much. I won't go further because time is the constraint. Otherwise, I can speak for hours together on it. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Datta. We'll take the questions in the end of the session. Now I'll request Charul Shukla, Executive Director Architecture, to give a presentation for what is happening all across the country, because she represents Airports Authority of India. So what is on the card at various part of the country, she can elaborate. And incidentally, she is the person who has designed Ayodhya Airport. So you can.
Thank you. Capacity.
She has reserved her seat.
हाँ ये बोला
वो बोलेंगे ऑफिशियल कैपेसिटी.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dignitaries on the dais, my seniors from Airports Authority of India, other seniors who are present here, and ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to speak about the capacity enhancement that Airport Authority is actually doing for the future. What for the upcoming infrastructure and support services that would be required with the growing aviation sector. So I'll just start my presentation. Yeah, so now what is the growth of aviation in India? We all actually already are dignified speakers who spoke in the morning. They have told us so many things. I'm just repeating a little bit about it. So the civil aviation industry in India has constantly grown at the rate of 10% the entire decade before the pandemic hit us in 2020. And as of now in 2023 end, it has surpassed the pre-pandemic levels. So, and also as of the last 9 years, the number of operational airports that were just 74 in the year 2013 and 14 have gone up to 148. I think it's 149 now, but anyways, that's one by figure I have over here. The goal is to have about 220 airports by the year 2025. And as of now, also, there's an increased aircraft, these aircrafts are also coming in, like already we come to know that airlines are procuring more number of aircrafts. Indigo and Air India and all, they are having about 1,000 new aircrafts are going to be coming. So if those aircrafts are coming, we need to have more capacity as far as the aprons are concerned to park those aircrafts, and we need much more coordination between the terminal and the air side as well as the city side. So the expansion should be aimed at reducing congestion and optimizing the utilization of available space. So as per the traffic forecast, it is said that the civil aviation industry in India is likely to hit the 1 billion passenger traffic by the year 2034. So we have to be prepared for that. Now, what are the challenges and what is the need for the expansion and modernization? So, since we have already said that India has experienced a significant surge in air travel, driven by the growing middle class, increased disposable income, and a preference for faster and more convenient transportation. Because the people who used to be traveling by train earlier all have moved on to the, going by aircraft, since it's time saving and also it's not that costly as it was earlier. The infrastructure challenges are many. The current infrastructure in many Indian airports faces challenges in coping with the escalating demand for air travel, overcrowded terminals, limited aircraft parking bays, and outdated facilities contribute to operational bottlenecks. Need for expansion and modernization. To meet the burgeoning demand, there's a critical need for expanding and modernizing airport infrastructure across the country. Upgrading runways, terminals, air traffic control systems is essential for handling higher passenger volumes and improving overall efficiency. Support services for enhanced passenger experience. Beyond physical infrastructure, the focus must also expand to support services that enhance the overall passenger experience. Educate baggage handling system, efficient security processes, seamless connectivity with ground transportation contribute to a positive passenger journey. Technological integration, this is one of the very important thing, which is also going to make our processes much faster. Is bracing to adopt advanced technologies such as biometrics, artificial intelligence, and data analytics to streamline operations. Implementing smart systems can improve security, optimize resource allocation, and enhance overall operational efficiency. Airside and landside coordination efforts between airside and landside are crucial for smooth airport operations. Improved connectivity and communication between these two components can minimize delays and enhance overall efficiency of the aviation ecosystem. Investment in training and skill development, like a lot of speakers in the morning has also pointed this out, that this is the need of the hour. To match the growth in air travel, there's a need for skilled manpower in various areas of aviation. Investing in training programs and skill development for aviation professionals, including ground staff and air traffic controllers, is imperative. Integration of regional airports. While major airports witness substantial traffic, integrating regional airports into the overall aviation network is also very essential. Strengthening regional connectivity can decentralize air traffic, reduce congestion, and boost economic development in smaller cities and towns, and that's why we have the UDAN scheme, that is the Ude Desh Ka Har Nagrik, and that is connecting the smaller towns and cities to the main cities. PPP also, somebody mentioned in the morning that this is also one of the very important thing. Encouraging private investment through PPP models can expedite the development of aviation infrastructure. Public and private collaboration can bring in expertise, funding, and innovation for the expansion and maintenance of airports. Sustainability and environmental considerations are also the most important, the need of the hour. As the aviation sector grows, there's a need to adopt environmentally sustainable practices, investment in eco-friendly technologies, energy-efficient infrastructure, and sustainable aviation fuels can contribute to a greener and more responsible aviation industry. So we also, Airport Authority also has a policy for the green development. Now this is the vision for airport infrastructure development. What AI has this is modernization expansion to modernize our existing airports and build new ones to cater to the increasing passenger and cargo traffic. The vision aligns with the government's goal of boosting economic growth and connectivity. Regional connectivity, the UDAN Desh Ka Har Nagrik scheme emphasizes the development of regional airports to enhance air connectivity to remote areas, thereby promoting economic developments and tourism. World-class facilities. India aspires to develop world-class airport facilities that provide a seamless passenger experience, efficient cargo handling, and state-of-the-art technology for safety and security, and sustainable infrastructure, which I've already mentioned. That is considering the environmental factors, energy efficiency, and minimizing the carbon footprints. So this is a capex plan of AI. Like we are already, we are spending about 91,000 crores. So this is a 5-year plan in which the ongoing works are about 15,000 crores and planned works about 10,000 crores. So this is the kind of infrastructure thing that we are doing. And these are some of the terminals, which are, some of them have already been inaugurated and some of them are under construction. Some of them in the planning stage. But in another 2 to 3 years' time, they'll all be coming up. So now, further in overcoming, how do we overcome these challenges? So there are 5, 6 factors that I mentioned here. So maybe we can take one by one. The first one is optimizing handling capacity of city side and air side. Coping with rapid increase in passenger traffic and with congestion in both city side and air side requires effective strategies to manage the growing influx. Limited airport infrastructure poses a persistent challenge, demanding careful planning and significant investment to expand facilities and meet the escalating demand for air travel services. I'll cover it up later, but there's one exercise which we are doing with our terminal building. I'll mention about it later. So this is, and the other part is the land constraints. So one most important thing for which basically constraints our airports is the availability of land. Because the city develops around the airport, and so therefore when we require the land for the future, for the expansion, usually it is not available or it is very expensive or we have to displace people. So in urban area, requiring additional land is impractical. AI faces a significant challenge in expanding airport infrastructure. This limitation hampers traditional runway expansion efforts due to space constraints. So what we are doing as an exercise is to overcome land constraints. The authority also innovative solutions like introducing RETs, PPTs, instead of adding new, if you don't have land for runway extension, so we are adding PPTs and RETs to make the processes faster. This approach enhances the efficiency of the existing runway, optimizing aircraft movement and overall airport capacity within the confined urban space. Power into pushback. This is also one of the things that we are doing because when it's a power in and power out, basically the area of apron you require is much more. So planning to do it. This is leading to a faster turnaround time from power into pushback. Now, efficiency in city side and air side. AI is implementing measures to improve efficiency both on the city side, passenger terminal, parking, etc., and airside, runways, taxi, apron, etc. of airports. Integration of technology to streamline ground operations, reduce delays in both passenger and cargo terminals. Okay, so a lot of our airports that Airport Authority have built, say around 20 years ago or maybe 15, 20 years ago, when the processes were much different. And now with the introduction of technology and like the QCAS and stuff and all that, they become much, much faster. Then we used to have this huge visitors area and all these terminal buildings, which is no more required in the present scenario. So Airport Authority, we have taken up an exercise of reconfiguring all the terminal buildings of all the airports across the country, in which we are trying to bring in more areas for the passengers. And so that, it'll like for example, if there is a huge, public concourse, which is no longer required. So we're trying to move in the check-in into that area, and so that we get more areas in the security check area. So that way reconfiguring it. Also, the security aspect has increased, so we need to have more number of X-ray machines and all. We are creating room for that. So this reconfiguration of terminal building, we are increasing the capacity of the building by just reconfiguration or maybe doing a little bit of modification and expansion. So this is what we are trying to do for our terminal buildings. Futuristic master plans. We have already worked on all the master plans. We have made master plan documents for all our airports. And in that master plan documents, it is like we are trying to see what we immediately, how can we, whatever measures we can take immediately within the available land. So we are taking it up. And what if we get the land, what all we can do it and how much expansion can be done. So all those master plan documents are ready, signed by our chairman and member planning. And so that because if master planning is done right, then for the future it will be much the process will be much better, and we'll be able to plan our the airport can develop in a proper way. So this phase approach allows for systematic development and ensures adaptability to changing aviation needs. Population-centric planning is aligning its expansion plans with projected population increases ensuring that airports can meet the rising demand for air travel services. The long-term planning considers factors such as urbanization trends and economic development as well. Enhance connectivity. AIR's initiative aims to attract more airlines by providing them with improved facilities and infrastructure. Increased connectivity is crucial for promoting tourism, trade, and economic growth in the region served by these airports. Collaboration and stakeholders. AIR is actively collaborating with the various stakeholders, including airlines, regulatory bodies, and local authorities to ensure a coordinated and effective approach to airport development. Such collaborations contribute to the overall success of the expansion and optimization initiatives. Now just overcoming the passenger handling challenges. The Airports Authority of India is actively working on improving airport infrastructure to optimize passenger handling capacity as well. Like I just mentioned about the terminal reconfiguration is a key strategy to address challenges like land unavailability. If your land is not available, we are trying to modify within the available land. Terminal modifications that I've already mentioned before. Enhanced road infrastructure, yeah, even the approach roads, we are trying to, we're making it, there are more number of lanes. Even in front of the terminal, we're adding up more number of lanes so that, there is no congestion in front of the terminal, which usually happens in the smaller cities and all that. So we are trying to do that. Reduction of office space, yeah, we had to reduce all the office space because in the older, like I said, the older buildings which were designed earlier, there were a lot of office spaces inside the buildings. So we're removing all that and giving the office spaces either in the basement or outside somewhere, wherever it's not within where the passenger is the supreme, whatever area is there inside the terminals, it has to be given for the passenger convenience only. Then of course the toilet facilities and utilities and everything, so that, and better accessibility as well. We have I already mentioned that we have done a reconfiguration of 50 terminal buildings already, and other terminal buildings also slowly we are doing it. And this 50 terminal that we have done the exercise on, we have the peak hour capacity has doubled from 48,000 to 80,000 peak hour passengers. So this is just within the same building we have increased the capacity without actually adding any additional area. So, and this enhancement is also costing us much less. It is costing about 1,100 crores, whereas if you would have built a new building and all, it would have costed approximately 7,500 crores for the same kind of infrastructure. That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Charul. Now I request Mr. Subir Hajra to give his presentation. And one of the slide, you must have noticed that approximately 65,000 crores comes from the private sector. And while airport authorities is spending something like 25,000 crores. So involvement of private sector is important and key for the development of the aviation infrastructure in the country. So GMR is one of the important players. Now Adani has come and Zurich Airport they are operating. So more to come once these further 25 airports gets privatized. So I think more and more investment, private investment is going to come into aviation sector. So over to Mr. Hajra.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Agarwal, sir. And very good afternoon to all of you. I can see very veteran industry experts, and I'm feeling jittery talking about aviation industry. But then, I take pride that I belong to a company called GMR, which has changed the face of the aviation industry in the last almost, 18 years. And now our experience, I'm here to share our experiences as a airport operator. We have not started as a airport operator indeed. We are a infrastructure developer company. And we sincerely believe in creating values. Now, economic value is not a dirty word anymore. When you get into some, economic activity, you need to create efficiency. You need to bring in effectiveness. And that is where our job is. We have experienced the challenge when we set out to build the airport in Hyderabad for the first time, or in, building the Terminal 3 in IGIA. And, we have experienced that at that point of time, there was a dearth of talent also in the sector. And we have,
got nationals from 30 countries to work with us, to help us to, bring in a kind of so-called management expertise on those areas, starting from master planning exercise to designing of the airport, or even commercial activities. We have benefited from the expertise, or from that's called benchmarking. There's nothing wrong that if we learn from others, and if that help us to learn faster. So again, we GMR, our experience is that while we set out to create value, in aviation industry value chain, you can't create value in an isolations. Airport operator cannot make money if a airline operator is bleeding, and even the ground handlers. So when we talk about aviation industry, and since morning, Kapil sir has, in his characteristic style, has set the tone for us, what is the way forward. And with the same essence, we can actually speak that, when we set out to create value in aviation industry, which is a very complex ecosystem, and it's not mutually exclusive, that airport operator or airline operator, ground handlers, cargo operators can create value separately. All of us has to work together. But it's at the moment, the word collaboration has remained a very sweet, romantic word. We don't collaborate actually. Still we kind of try to create value in isolations, which is actually, again, at the beginning itself, let me tell you, is something incomprehensible at this point of time. Now, when we see as a airport operator, and all of you are veterans, so many people from Airport Authority of India, I don't need to explain to you airports, how they has to be created for creation of value. But the three important thing that has to be done is, what we understand is you need to have a matching infrastructure for city side, terminal, and airside. Now, all of this cannot work seamlessly or give you the desired value until unless you have airspace, the ANS people, or our pilot community. All of us know that, in a single runway system in Gatwick, how much value they create, how much ATM that they generate. So kindly please, the point that I try to drive home here is, it's not just creating, investing money and creating physical infrastructure. It is leveraging or unlocking the value from each infrastructure that you create. So, for example, the positioning of RETs itself is a big, boon. At the right place, if you put the RETs, you can create a lot of value out of your runway. And like, the airspace, I don't need to, Datta sir has already explained that the ANS, the training of our ATCOs, high-row training for Delhi airport, currently we are operating at 70 million passengers. But then we have a potential to go up to 140. Now, how? We have already invested in 2010, 12,857 crore to be precise. And again, last 3-4 years, we have invested another 10,000 crores. And what the other infrastructure that we have created a cross taxiway which connects directly from the south precincts to the northern precincts. That bring in efficiency for everybody. The airline, they don't have to burn the expensive fuel. If you have the taxiways at place, we have put in the 4th runway. So we are a private player. We believe in creating value, putting in infrastructure which is ahead of time and well thought through. That is what we aim for. So I don't need to explain this model. I just wanted to put it here just to understand that this infrastructure, physical infrastructure, is something to be placed. But at the same time, the value has to be unlocked through collaboration or whatever you can call. And you cannot do it, airport operator cannot create value in isolations. One has to work together. Okay, the government has to support us. And for that, I can see our good old friend Inder Mohan sir is here. Our CR team regularly, our corporate relation team work relentlessly for policy advocacy with the governments and try to bring in technological upgradations and training. We have worked with AI and sent ATCOs for hydro training in NATS establishment in UK. So that is the kind of thing we always work ahead of time, we ahead for the industry. Well, you can see that what we are experiencing, high growth in traffic. Now, when you have airport built for say 100 million, we also need to see how we can put it and create more, say for terminal, 40 million capacity you have built. But then, say for example, the technological upgradations like, digital twins or simulation exercise that you can do and try to remove the bottleneck point, you can go up to say 50, 60 million. That what are you doing? You are bringing in efficiency. You are saving capital expenses for the country. CapEx is being saved. From the same capacity you can, so I will wrap it up. So, and then our Udan and all our number of airports are in increase, and that is also helping us to boost the passengers number. We are relentlessly working with the different agencies, bringing in minimum connect time. Now you see, that is not just between the terminals, it is also between the say for example, if Delhi airport wants to have 100 million passengers, one has to understand that the travelers that will come to the airport are almost 400, 500 million. You need to have multimodal connectivity. You need to have things like metro, which we have done long back in 2010. Then we are improving on that. We are trying to bring in each terminals we want to airport automatic passenger movers kind of thing, which we have all seen in other airports. Soon you will have in our Delhi airport. All our terminals are getting connected to metro, and our the road connectivity also we are working. So from all angles we are trying to see how we can achieve efficiency, which is beneficial for not only for airport operator, it is for everybody to reap the benefits, including government. Well, this is, I have already said that what we have done. That means what? We not just say it in words, we execute it on ground. 4th runway we have already built. All of you have seen the elevated cross taxiway, first time kind of thing in India. The increased capacity in Terminal 1, we will soon the congestion that you used to face in Terminal 1 will go forever. 22 passenger boarding bridges are coming, and almost 40 million capacity it would become. Then the next most important thing in is technological upgradations. Now, these are all of you know, Digi Yatra and full body scanner or self bag drop. All of that is important, but the most important is many things that we are contemplating. Other than this, which are path breaking, it is say for example, digital tower. We are working on digital tower. How we can, instead of having a physical tower which costs money and also take time to build, we can have, digital tower. And we are developed that. We have seen there is no model available at India itself. So we are trying to work with the government and other agencies to have such kind of things. So that is my point is that value cannot be created alone in isolations. All of us, and aviation industry doesn't mean that airport only build infrastructure. All airline operator, ground handlers, the pilot community, everybody has to kind of work together to create value and take the country forward so that we evolve as a country in the aviation sector, create value. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Subir. So question answers, if any, we'll take it during the lunch break. And this is the end of the session.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's once again put our hands together for all our eminent speakers for those wonderful presentations we had for them. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, there's no time left for the question and answer session. But fortunately, all our speakers will be here with us till the lunchtime, so you can catch hold of each one of them individually and get your question resolved. Alternately, you can kindly send them to us or mail them to us with your contact details, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. So now I would request Sri V.P. Agarwal, our moderator, to kindly present mementos as a token of gratitude and appreciation to all our eminent speakers on behalf of the organizers. We present to Sri A.K. Dattaji. Thank you, sir. That was a very informative presentation. We present to Ms. Charul Shukla, Executive Director, Architecture, AI. Thank you very much indeed, ma'am, for that elaborate presentation we had from you. And now we present to Shri Subir Hazra. Thank you, sir, for the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for doing the honors. Ladies and gentlemen, as I request our panelists to kindly step forward for a group photograph, I would request everybody else to kindly remain seated. Just give us a moment while we arrange the top table for the next session. There is no break. We are straight away moving on to the next session. The next business session, ladies and gentlemen, will be enhancing we'll be discussing how we can be enhancing the operational capabilities to face future emerging challenges, the airline operations, airline crew, baggage handling, ground support, etc., MROs, cargo, and skill development. Kindly remain seated. We will just take a moment more to do up the top table. Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, while we are setting up the top table, I will take this opportunity to introduce our eminent panelist who would be joining us. This session will be moderated by Dr. R.K. Tyagi, who is the former chairman, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, is an engineering graduate in electronics and telecommunications from IIT Roorkee, and also holds a master's degree in business administration. Besides having attended an advanced learning course on public sector management with 40 years valid experience in ONGC, Pawan Hans, and thereafter at CMD Hindustan Aeronautics. So let's put our hands together as I welcome Dr. R.K. Tyagi, our distinguished moderator. We also have with us Sri Kamal Hingorani, who is presently the Chief Customer Officer, SpiceJet, and Board Member and Chief Officer, Spice Express. In his current role as Chief Officer, Spice Express, he is focused to revolutionize the air and logistics ecosystems through state-of-the-art technology. He also continues to manage his portfolio of Chief Customer Officer, SpiceJet, and has learned from the contributed in the ever-evolving aviation landscape for last 3 decades. So let's put our hands together to welcome Sri Kamal Hingorani ji. Next, I would like to invite Sri Pulak Sen. With his 40 years vast and rich experience, started his career as a journalist and took over charge as the editor-in-chief of the magazine Indian Aviation, Civil and Military in the year 2000. Mr. Sain has gathered experience in all aspects of managing a publication. He's here with us, Mr. Pulak Sain. I guess he's still on the way. I would now like to invite Ms. Vandana Singh, who is presently holding the position as Director Global Corporate Key Accounts, Asia Pacific, Saudia Cargo. High caliber professional with over 27 years of global experience in India and Southeast Asia with leading companies in the aviation and logistics industry. Ms. Vandana Singh's extraordinary journey and remarkable achievements continue to inspire many more. She has earned several awards and recognitions, some of which are the Oscar Award for Aviation Cargo from Ludhiana, Time Women Achievers Award 2023, Global Icon in Aviation and Logistics 2023, and the COVID Warrior 2023 by Saudia Cargo. And she has many more awards and accolades to her credit. But we're saving time here and moving on with the proceedings of the session. Once again, I would like to remind the time duration is 50 minutes only, 50, which includes the opening and closing remarks by the chair and presentations by all. In fact, we have now only 2 speakers for about 10 to 12 minutes each.
Pulak Sain is there.
Oh. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Let's put our hands together, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome Mr. Pulak Sain, who is convener, MRO Association of India. So we have, unfortunately, with Mr. Pulak Sain joining us on the dais, we'll have to cut down the presentation time for 10 minutes for each speaker now. And
5 minutes, so you don't have to.
Perfect. Thank you. And I hand over to our moderator, Dr. R.K. Tyagi, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. We'll stick to 50 minutes, but I plan to increase one more speaker. We'll manage the time. I met a youngster from HAL who was speaking to me about what this HAL airport will be doing at Nasik for the cargo. Who is that boy?
Javed, I will call him, sir.
Yes. If Javed is there, he can also join us. So, excellent sessions. In fact, when Miglani ji told me that we are going to do this seminar on 28th of December, I was a bit disappointed in a sense. I thought December is a holiday mood in Delhi and it's very cold. So I thought that possibly we will not be having the interest of the aviation fraternity. But he proved us wrong. 28th December is really a very good day. We have a full hall. We have, in fact, literally who is who of the aviation industry. So it's really a good session, good gathering. Javed?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Javed. We thought we'll invite you and we'll listen from you about, this HAL interest in Nasik is generating a lot of interest as far as the cargo and other things are concerned. So a few minutes from you. I hope. Yes. It is extempore, but I hope you will be comfortable with it. Okay. And to my fellow panelists, what I propose to do is, we all will be speaking for, Pulakji, we all will be speaking for about 5 minutes each, so that we'll have more time for mutual discussions. So I'll be inviting in that sequence, first Kamal, followed by Mr. Pulak Sain, then Vandana Singh ji, and Javed from HAL. We'll spend about 5 minutes each, and then we'll give more time for the discussions. The paradigm is already set. We in India are growing at the rate of 15% per annum. Our airports are chock and block. They look like more like railway stations with no place to sit. But still the fact is that this year, Kapil told me that our airlines will be making a loss of $1.4 billion US. So if airports are crowded, the flights are 100% full, and even then if airlines is making losses, it's really a bit surprising. And I think some policy makers will have to be working on that. Another trend is Air India 470 aircrafts. Indigo 500. In fact, the highest ever order by any civilian airline is by Indigo. So 1,000 aircrafts more on Indian skies. And the negative part of the story is that about 200 aircrafts are likely to be on the ground by March 2024 because of engine issues, parking bays, and other challenges. That means out of 700 and odd, 200 aircraft means something about 30% aircraft will be on the ground, with right now no solution in sight. Self-reliance is the buzzword. In defense, we have already seen a lot of initiatives, and whatever happens in defense as far as the technology is concerned, the same is being applied in the civil aviation. So we look forward for more and more developments in that area. As far as MROs are concerned, we have two very good speakers, Pulak and Kamal, on this. I will only set the ground on a sense that we have Vision 2040 and we have a Defense Acquisition Policy 2020. These are the two guiding documents for MRO in India. The Vision 2040 says that 90% of the Indian aircrafts and 20% of the global aircraft should be maintained and serviced in India by 2040. And also 90% of the redelivery aircraft should be handled in our own country. These are the long-term targets for MROs. Cargo, Vandana ji, we today handle about 1.2 lakh metric ton, and we say that by the year 2030 we must be handling about 10 million ton. That is one. And lot of scope to grow. Like when we talk of India, we talk of 11 narrow body aircrafts dedicated as freighters, and vis-a-vis against 400 by FedEx, 290 by UPS, 215 by DHL, 27 by Qatar, and so on. That means MRO and cargo, there will be a lot of scope for development, and there will be a lot of scope for growth, and of course there will be few challenges. And also, I also look forward in your precious 5 minutes, you will also be talking about the policy advice to the government. Like, I know MRO, cargo, a lot of good things have happened. Pulak and Kamal, they have been instrumental for MRO policy 2021, where a lot of good concessions came. But then we are always hopeful and we look forward for some more concessions as far as cargo and MRO is concerned. And if we were able to make some 5-6 crisp recommendations in these two areas, I think budget is still about 1 month away. We'll be able to forward those recommendations to Honorable Finance Minister also for inclusion in the budget. So with this, I again repeat, we expect to take about 5 minutes each. We start with Kamal, and that means 20 minutes we complete the first round, and after that we are open for question and answers. And audience will have a lot of questions and answers because first 2 sessions we were not able to accommodate them. So while this will be the shortest session, but I still look forward for many interesting questions from the audience. So with this, Kamalji, all yours. Anywhere you feel like.
I don't have a presentation. Thank you, Dr. Tyagi. General Seth, Mr. Agarwal, FAST Management, thank you very much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to be part of this forum. I represent today SpiceJet and Spice Express. Just to give a brief, you all have been reading on various issues that the industry has been facing, both positive and negative, over the last at least 1 year post-COVID. And as you all are senior members of the aviation ecosystem, you're well aware, a lot has transpired since the morning on various speakers who've talked about it. The fact that we are growing at a pace which I hope we will be able to manage from an infrastructure perspective. I'm actually confident. And while I talk of, 1,000 aircraft on order by all the airlines here, the fact remains that every time this discussion comes up, I have these questions asked of me that Will the airports be ready? Will there be parking stands? Will there be enough slots? Will ATC be technologically advanced enough to handle all this? And I have a small answer to all that. 20 years back, when privatization of airlines was just about starting, 25 years back, Jet Airways, but about 20 years back is when more airlines came in, especially when SpiceJet came in about 18 years back, Indigo came in 17 years back, and we as low-cost airlines had ordered placed large aircraft orders. Everybody said that you are placing these orders, where would it go? And my answer then remains the same what my answer today is, that in India, we are a country of resilience. We find ways, we find solutions to the problem. We may not be the best planners, unlike Changi, Singapore, or the developed world, but we manage to find solutions as part of win-win from every stakeholder of the ecosystem as well as the end customer. We've done it all these years. We shall continue to do this. There is no magic wand. However, having said that, if there was better planning, definitely the challenges would subside. And we would be able to do this in a more, should I say, a customer-friendly, stakeholder-friendly way. Having said that, talked about the huge aviation growth that we are talking about, the fact also remains that our economy has done very well in the last 3 or 4 quarters, and we hope to grow at 7% in the current fiscal, and hopefully close to 7% in the next fiscal as well. And the fact there's always a correlation between the GDP growth of a country and the aviation. It used to be, I remember 20 years back when I was doing my MBA at IIM Bangalore, we used to talk about the fact that aviation should grow or grows at 1.5 times that of the GDP growth of a country. In India, we've maintained 2x for most part of the last decade, and we continue to do that. You just heard Dr. Tyagi in his initial thing that we are talking of a 15% CAGR, which is 2x of our GDP really, the GDP growth of 7% that we are looking at. And we are the only country, to my mind, which is growing and will continue to grow in aviation. And we always like to compare ourselves to China. Just to remind you all, we were what China, in 1980, China and India were at par in terms of number of aircraft, GDP, etc. In year 2000, China was where we are today. So one may say that we are 23 years behind. But I think we will make up in the next 1 decade, and there are targets for 2030, 2040. And we probably will definitely make it or be close to that. I will talk about the constraints and the challenges that we face on cargo. I will leave the MRO to my good friend Pulak here, who's absolute authority. And if I have exceeded my 5 minutes, I am available during question and answers whenever it happens to be able to address any specific things. Thank you.
A real quick one, but I'm sure you will have another chance to talk about the constraints and the policy dispensations. So it will be a pleasure to invite Pulak. Me and Pulak are permanent faces in the aviation conferences for the last 20 years. So it is always a pleasure, and no conference will be complete without him speaking on MROs. All yours, Pulak.
Thank you, sir, for the kind introduction. As most of you know, I have been a journalist all through my life. I have been sitting that side, and I am slowly acquiring the courage to kill my stage fright. Having said so, I thank FAST for giving me an opportunity to speak to all of you today, this afternoon. As Kamal said that, and Tyagi sir also said, there is an exponential growth of Indian commercial aviation. I think if things go good, at least for 5 years, if not 10 years. And the numbers are between 1,000 aircraft to 1,500 aircraft. by 2024 and beyond. And people have before me told you the actual number that Indian Airlines would spend for acquiring this beautiful aircraft. And I must congratulate Air India for getting their first A350 last weekend. So I think you should give a round of applause for Air India and the new aircraft that we would be operating. Sir, having new aircraft and the old ones, you have to keep them flying all the time. And we are, as the Indian airline industry, we utilize our aircraft to the maximum. And that is why our safety norms are very high, very, very high. And my friends in DGCA are smiling and saying, confirming my statement. Today, the airline industry, the MRO industry is 1.4 billion worth. But mind you, of 1.4 billion, still 90% of the work goes abroad. We want to retain it in country, and we should not lose the foreign exchange. It is happening. Our biggest airline in India for many years have been Indigo, and they were sending their aircraft to Sri Lanka. With the collapse of Sri Lanka, that has been arrested, and they are going to our third-party MROs in India, namely Airworks and GMR, in large quantity. What has taught us in given confidence to the lessors is during COVID, Indigo wanted to give away most of their aircraft on lease, and those were done by the Indian MRO industry successfully and sent back to the lessors. So that is given a confidence to people in the leasing community that Indian technical labor, I'm using a very long term, the technical experts that we have are best that the world can produce. We have the youngest workforce, the most experienced workforce, and all the MROs are EASA and FA certified, apart from DGCA, and they are also certified by the countries who are sending their aircraft to India. Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Bhutan, you name them, they have gone to, I know MROs have brought in aircraft from Africa, sub-Saharan Africa also. So, as I told you, 1.4 billion is the total number today, and we expect it to go up to 4 billion in the next 5 years. There are a few things that I must bring out here. With so much of work coming in, we want a new set of engineers and technicians to come, and that is where effective training has to be imparted. Next month, one of the best engineering college for AME is being put up, is being inaugurated by the Civil Aviation Minister at Hyderabad, the GMR Aviation Institute. Like that, Air India Engineering also have some MTOs in Delhi, Bombay, Trivandrum and all. So we are constantly teaching youngsters to come into the field. There are a few problems that I would like to bring out here. The case of certification. Certification norms, we are abiding by the CAR 44 and 144 and Part 66, which is similar to EASA but there are module tests that are being taken by Indian DGCA. I urge the DGCA to stop this module test and follow EASA for certification process, which can be done by a certified engineer for work done by technicians on ground. So that is another thing. You stressed on the GST part. So let me tell you, it has now stabilized at 4%, 5%, but we are having a little bit of problem. We have flagged this issue to the Ministry of Civil Aviation on IGST. And IGST is, if we don't solve it now, this growth of commercial aviation in India will stifle. And the last point I would like to make is the civil-military cooperation, which is my pet project when I started in 2011 my MRO show. Now I see there is a big impetus from in the defense forces.
Yes.
At my last event, the Air Marshal, who's in charge of indigenization, requested me to have a stakeholders meeting with them, and I see there would be some outcome of it. So I rest my case here, sir, with your permission.
Excellent. I am told that one of the MROs, which is already having a EASA certification, is waiting to be operated because DGC has a certification nahi hai available.
No, sir, it cannot be. DGCA certification has to be taken first, and then the EASA certificate.
Okay.
You have Sahi Saab, you have Rawat Saab. I don't know why that is the problem, sir.
No, I am told EASA has cleared it, but they are waiting for certification from DGCA to start formal operations. I do not know.
I am
Maybe
not aware of it,
information is
sir.
incomplete.
Sorry.
Okay. Right, good. So it will be my pleasure inviting Vandana ji, professional with global experience, a very innovative lady who develops strategic plans, long-term business partnerships for the airlines, and heads the cargo for Saudia Airlines, and a person who is always in the aviation circles, either for HR, for skills, or so many hats you are wearing. In fact, though we are listening, it will be pleasure listening to you from cargo point of view, but any other topic you would like to touch upon, in 5 minutes, you are most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tyagi. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable General Seth, Mr. Agarwal, Mr. Tyagi once again, members of FAST, members of Civil Aviation Authority, and all the esteemed guests here, and all the esteemed members sitting over here. It's a pleasure for me to be here. And even though you'll see a longish presentation here right now, which is talking a lot about sustainability, emerging scenarios, challenges, and everything as to how we can improve, go from that leap of 1.3 billion to 10 million rather, I am pretty sure, being a resilient, proud, strong nation that we are, that we will emerge victorious. And I speak this as a proud Indian because I do know that there is no way that India will ever lag behind. Not just we will cross China, I think we are just about crossing everybody else. What we need to do is we need to learn a little bit from the best practices that others are showcasing. And this is where we need to step forward as an industry and say, okay, this is where a DHL is doing good. This is where a UPS is doing good. This is where the greenfield synergy is happening. This is where the SAFA fuel, we are talking of 777s right now. We are talking of buying more 777s as Saudi cargo for sure. How are we going to reduce carbon emission? All these topics are things that we should absorb learn, march forward, and really defeat everybody. This is how I look at it. Please, my presentation. I think. Which should be this, yes. Just make it. And this, So what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to take you through a longish 14 slides that I have over here. I'm going to just stress on the tall points, the major points, and we may need to elaborate and learn on those and move forward. So starting with this, first of all, it's an excellent topic, emerging scenario in aviation. India needs matching infrastructure and support. India needs to emerge on its sustainability, on its skill development, on its cargo, and all the other things we said. So yes, I begin with a resilient, strong India. Now, some of the future changes expected in air cargo operations for better service and sustainability. Definitely, there's a lot of talk about digitalization. Now, question is, how much are we there? How much are we doing on e-available? How much automated are we? How fast the steps we are taking? Are we keeping pace with the rest of the world, or are we taking those small steps? Now, those are the gaps that we need to fill. So I put a lot of emphasis on digitalization of the industry through data sharing and API to improve visibility, transparency, and collaboration. I talk about increasing regulatory deployment of preloading cargo information to enhance security and efficiency. I talk about innovation in cargo facilities and technology to optimize warehouse processes, handling, and storage. And here I like to pause and just comment. You all know what a strong nation we are as far as pharmaceuticals are concerned. We know what a wonderful, strong job we did during COVID, and the way our pharma industries. We are actually one of the pharma capitals of the world, if I may say so. And I'm saying this as a cargo expert. The way we moved forward with the vaccines, the way the Serum Institute moved, the way Bharat Biotech moved. Now, coming to cargo, if we can monitor this cargo, we know it's temperature sensitive, we have the monitoring, we are able to advise the customer at the end that this is how your cargo is moving, this is when this is reaching, be it a life-saving drug, be it a vaccine, or be it anything, a generic drug also, but which is temperature sensitive. And if you're able to monitor that as cargo, why can't we do it for everything else? We are doing it for perishables, we are doing it for pharma. I think we can move on to all the rest of the products. We can move on to fashion, we can move on to retail. We are a huge hub for fashion and retail. Why don't we do that for them too? So it's all a question of automation. We have the best of artificial intelligence, best of everything at our beck and call. And in fact, we are the brain behind all of this. All our skilled IT is over there to really help us be there. So why can't we move faster? This is one question I ask, because this is what my vision is, this is what our vision is, that we should march faster. When we talk about skills and development for air cargo, question. Yes, we talk a lot about training programs for cargo professionals, etc., etc., etc. Are we keeping that pace? Are we collaborating together? Are we bringing those people forward? Are we actually giving them those kind of workshops? Are we even giving them a stipend, if I may ask, by motivation? Are we giving them reward and recognition? So these are things where we need to collectively put ourselves together and say, yes, training, skill development is the need of the hour, but let's do this together. Let's collaborate and let's make it happen so that at the end for India, it's really good that we have this kind of skill. Same goes for cargo marketing and business development. Again, I speak about cargo digital transformation, e-commerce. You know, during COVID, the only industry that was running and is also still running, and we are making huge profits. I talk here as Saudi Cargo, with intention to bring, Mr. Tyagi, 30 freighters, mostly 777s, fuel efficient, with SAFA fuel, and talking about 747-400 again. We are talking about bringing them forward, so why can't we really move forward in making them absolutely excellent as far as operational framework is concerned, as far as standards and best practices are concerned? We talk about e-available, we talk about digitalization again, tracking and tracing. All of this should now be should be passé. It should have been actually happening already. And we should not be stuck anywhere with paperwork, files, manual work. We should be doing this in an automated manner. Again, you talk about cargo handling and safety regulations. A lot has been spoken on this field already right now. Same applies, as you spoke, ma'am, as the gentleman spoke earlier, a lot is already being done on this. Now, when we talk about sustainability in air cargo, I emphasize here on SAFA fuel, which is an eco-friendly alternate to traditional aviation fuels derived from renewable sources such as biomass, waste oils, or synthetic processes. Now, who is doing? Now, I'm here Saudi Cargo, but I'm giving you best case examples. So I'm not here talking only about Saudi Cargo. I'm talking about all the others who are doing really well, and we need to learn from them. What did Virgin Atlantic do very, very recently? They took a historic flight on 100% sustainable aviation fuel, SAFA fuel as we call, from London to New York, marking the culmination of a year of radical collaboration to demonstrate the capability of SAFA as a safe drop-in replacement for fossil-derived jet fuel compatible with today's engines. We should be getting to that. Efficient aircraft and operations, again, use of fuel efficient. I think I've spoken about 777 freighters, how much we are emphasizing on it, how fuel efficient they are, and I think a lot of airlines are moving in that direction. When we talk of carbon offsetting, again, compensating for carbon emissions by investing in projects that reduce or capture an equivalent amount of greenhouse gases elsewhere. Again, here the example is UPS. That has a carbon offset program that allows customers to contribute to projects like reforestation and methane capture to offset the emissions from their shipments. That's, again, a best practice. Eco-friendly packaging. Are we there really? I asked this question. Are we really there? Can anybody answer me here in this group? Are we there? We are not there. We talk about it, but we need to march forward. We need to be there. Use of biodegradable or recyclable packaging materials to reduce waste. How much time it has taken for us to move away from plastic? I'm now moving back to our homes. How much time? We still use plastics. Let's face it. So question is, let's move to eco-friendly packaging when it comes to cargo. We are going to save so much. Now here I talk about my previous company. I spent 18 years with Lufthansa Cargo. They have introduced a system, a reusable thermal packaging for temperature-sensitive cargo, minimizing the need for single-use packaging. Many other airlines are following now, and I think we, as a country, should also be looking at this. Now, I'm just going to take 2-3 minutes more. Load factor optimization, this is definitely happening in India. I say this with firmness that this is happening, but we can get better. We can improve our pace. So, maximizing cargo load factors to ensure that each flight carries a higher volume of goods, reducing the emissions per unit of cargo. This is extremely important. Now here, best practice is DHL, Deutsche Holdings Limited, implemented a program called Optimizing Networks for Growth, which focuses on improving load factors and route optimization to increase efficiency. Let's look at it. Let's study. Maybe we learn something from it. We talk about green technologies at airports. And here with pride I say that implementing sustainable technologies at airports, such as electric ground support equipment and renewable energy sources, what recently our Prime Minister did last year, Prime Minister Modi inaugurated Gujarat's first greenfield airport at Hirasar on 27th July 2022. The terminal is designed as a green building with energy-efficient heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, LED lighting, automated lighting, and control systems, double insulated roofing, and an energy-efficient electrical equipment. I think we should give a clap to that, because that is excellent. That is an excellent step. And I'm sure at the Ayodhya airport, similar will happen, ma'am. So, a 500 kilowatt solar plant will be installed to supply clean energy. Now, these are things that India is doing, and we are very, very proud of it. Again, collaboration and data sharing. I don't need to emphasize more on that, but this is somewhere we all need to come together as an industry, all of us. Put everything else behind and work for the betterment and putting India right at number one, at numero uno. I will not talk a lot about government initiatives. A lot has been spoken here. But then there is the PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan. There is Krishi Uran 2.0. There is National Logistics Policy. A lot of good things happening in our country today. A self-reliant India, a made in India, a make in India, which makes us very, very proud. I'm talking a lot for Air India. Why not? As a proud Indian, the flag carrier airline of India also has taken several steps towards sustainable air cargo operations, and may they keep even getting better and better and better. Again, integrated air command and control systems, a lot to learn here, as you said rightfully so, from defense, collaboration with defense on airports, learning from them, modernization of Air Force, collaborations and partnerships. I say this as a proud soldier's daughter, that this is something I really, really take pride in, and you'll read it in most of my interviews. I won't talk much about Saudi Cargo. I think I stand up for that company right now. And as we speak, I'll share my vision for us. So post-COVID, we came down to 7 freighters. At present, right as of now, we are operating with 7 freighters, moving to 10 to 14. We'll have 14 by Q1 2024. This is just information for everybody here. It's 14. And then by 2025, 30 freighters, 30, which is crossing, I think, most of the top airlines that are there in this world. But yes, sustainability is the end game. That is what I stand up for. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Great one. My pleasure in inviting Mr. Javed Ali, who is a Deputy General Manager, Business Development and Marketing in HAL. And as it happened, I was just exchanging notes with him in the morning. And what in few minutes he told me about that Nasik airport and HAL's plan of doing it. I thought it would be worthwhile to invite him on the dais and give him few minutes to speak on that. So all yours, Javed.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course.
Respected Tyagi sir, under his leadership, HL has grown. Kamal sir, Vandana ma'am, Pulak sir, senior leadership from the aviation sector, ladies and gentlemen. I am representing one of the oldest aviation industry of India, which is 83 years old, started pre-independence 1940, and recently we celebrated on the last Saturday, 23rd December, its 83rd birthday. So it's one of the made in India aviation company. The 80% of flying machines which are there in the defense sector is, I proudly say, Bharat ke hai, that is by India, that is by HL. And what sir said in the morning, that is 3 aircraft and air operators, like airlines. So we make aircrafts. In aircrafts, we make fighter aircrafts, we make civil aircrafts, we make helicopters, we make UAV. Name the flying machine, HL is there. We maintain these machines, we make these machines, and we also operate 2 airports. That is the Bangalore airport, which was initially used for all the operations. And I'm proud to say the connectivity, the vision of Honorable Prime Minister, that is Udan scheme, then your Krishi scheme and all. We are operating one of the airports from Nasik, which is about 180 kilometers from the Mumbai. And the airport is running very good conditions. And we are able to fulfill the mission of Atmanirbhar Bharat, where all the, we are able to meet and indigenize the defense requirements. And as a policy, all the policy makers are also over here. So similar schemes to be implemented in the civil aviation sector, where the dependency on foreign OEMs will be reduced by the Indian operators. The Indian operators can maintain their own aircrafts as we do in defense. That's at the initial stage. That will be a very tough time. But we have to do a policy to be made in such a way that we can maintain our own aircrafts. And HL is also in the cargo, ma'am. We have a joint venture with a PSU, that is Concorde and HL Helcon. So we don't say we work. Every week I'm carrying 11 cargoes of livestock from my Oja regional area to Abu Dhabi. 11 flights of cargo per week of livestock. And condition is that as a customer for the freighters and cargoes, I don't get cargo aircraft. I can go up to 20 plus cargoes per week for livestock.
You export a lot of red wine also.
I'll come to, sir. I'll come to the topic. So I'll give an introduction, like the theme, that is aviation and sustainable tourism. I come from a holy region of Nasik, where Rama was there, Pandavas were there. We have Saptashringi, Panchvati Pilgrimage Center, where annually your Kumbh Mela is taking place. Shirdi is there, Pandavlena Caves is there. And name the, while I'm speaking that tourism, India is more into holy tourism. And Nasik is one of the major dhams. And for tourism, and Nasik airport is connected. Nasik, we say, it's a divine plus wine. We are the wine capital of India. So we are the wine, you go for the day for the divine and evenings in the wine. You can come to Sula Wines, have a rest and take. So this, just I'll say the Nasik manufactures fighter aircrafts, MiG-21, 27, Sukhoi 30. Now we have gone to Tejas, HTD-40 and all. It's the wine capital of India. It's the third largest industrialized city of the Maharashtra. It's named the one of our automobile hubs like Mahindra, Myco. It's there in the Nasik. I'll just cut short the presentation, limiting to a few minutes. Shirdi Sai Baba, Shirdi is there in the Nasik. So these are my airport, which is 3.5 kilometers long, which is having an international terminal. It is well equipped with ATC. So it is a location of Nasik is the center connected by rail, road, air, infrastructure available, center of the city. And at present, I am operating to 8 destinations by regional connectivity. These are the coordinates. I have divided my airport into such a way that this is my defense area. This is ample space available for my civil operations, where I'll be operating for the civil part. This is my international airport. Available, all the prerequisite infrastructure as per international norms are available in this airport. This is my up-to-date, well-equipped ATC. Oh.
Don't worry, we are looking at you.
Okay, so like ATC infrastructure, even we have a cargo hub over here. We have joint venture with Concord Corporation of India and HL. We have joint venture of Helcon, where we warehouse all the livestock plus the perishables. And I am working on a dream project of connecting western part of India and the Seven Sisters, that's in northeast, where the perishables are not able to be exchanged within part of India. So I will be connecting the Seven Sisters and the Western India by the cargo. That is my dream project, for which I am over here to take your support and help. This is my apron available, where I have parking space ample. This is emerging as a substitute to Mumbai airport for parking space. Some technical problem is there, no issue.
You can just continue.
We are having the cheapest fuel available in India. Even HL has entered into civil MRO, where we have recently collaborated with Pulak Sen's supports with Airbus. We have starting one of the biggest MRO repair and overall center in Nasik, where all civil aviation aircrafts will be repaired, and MRO hub is shortly it will be announced. It is already announced. The MRO we have started, so that you get a one-stop solution for aircraft parking, maintenance, cargo, ATC, everything. This is my cargo warehousing, just adjacent to the airport, where I do air cargo, inland containers, perishable goods, everything is there. These are some of the infrastructures available. Nasik is famous for grapes, onions, pomegranates, where we export from Nasik. Sir. Large cargos, okay.
So we are coming soon to Nasik.
You are most invited. I am coming to your office, man, after this.
And they are very good boats.
And it is in like Mumbai airport, which is very much congested. It's only 180 kilometers, aerial distance about less than 90 kilometers. So all the infrastructure is available at Nasik. And all this infrastructure, the vision is of Tyagi sir, what he, the seeds which he sowed, now we are reaping the fruits. And thankful for Tyagi sir for putting that seeds in the soil, and we are getting the fruits.
Actually, we created this airport because Bombay was really giving hell of a lot of trouble. There will be no parking available, there will be no slots. So we thought we'll develop it as a cheaper option.
Yes. And
to
all
Mumbai
the
airport.
aircrafts are coming to Nasik airport as a parking, where they are getting a cheaper fuel.
Yes.
And it's an agriculture hub of Maharashtra and Gujarat. So all the perishables can be exported from here. So even for the open sky policy, where the 6 airports are nominated, that also for all the decision makers, we want their support will be coming to you for that. With this, I'll just, what 5 minutes we are given. These are the advantages of Nasik airports: cost-effective, single window clearance, connectivity, free airspace. The airspace available at Nasik airport is totally dedicated to HL. That is under my control. Nobody can fly without my permission. So free airspace is available. And the airport is such a way, we get a check-in within 35 minutes we check in. So it's very personalized services are available over here.
Sure. Good.
Thank you, sir.
Good. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Javed. Very impressive, because in that presentation I forgot to announce that Saudi Cargo is now coming with 3 freighters per day, into Ahmedabad on a weekly basis. And I think it's time we look at Nasik as well,
Ma'am,
because we are looking at options. So that's collaboration.
I am operating 11 flights per week, and I am having orders more than 23 flights per week. I am not able to cater my customers from India to the Gulf region.
So we're going to discuss this.
Yeah.
Best wishes to both of you, but please give us one assurance that whatever business you generate, 5% royalty you will give to FAST. Okay.
I would like to give more than 5%.
So I'll ensure that the sponsorship, the gold sponsorship is there. It's always there on the stock.
Good. We are still on our time management. 2 o'clock we'll finish. We are still 5 minutes. So 5 good questions from the audience addressed to esteemed panel of your choice. Yes, sir. And questions have to be short and they have to come quickly.
My name is N.K. Gupta. I stand here for senior citizens and differently abled. What are the facilities which we are wishing for next 15 years from today for spatially abled and senior citizens who are wheelchair? Thank you for listening
Okay.
and trying to answer. Thank you.
I'm Dr. J.C. Batra. I'm a senior advocate practicing lawyer on aviation. I want to know how much you are involving the consumers here in this conference, providing services to the consumer, but none of the consumer is here. Thank you.
Okay.
One more
3 more
question.
questions.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm Dr. Diwakar Goel here. I'm chairman of Aero Academy Aviation Science and Management. My question for this, we talk about the supply chain management in cargo. And everybody is talking about dwell time. National aviation policy says 8 hours dwell time, air to truck, truck to air. But that philosophy never goes in the interest of the consignee, because we don't have the dedicated freight corridor. Even the Bangalore or Hyderabad airport, only the Jewar airport has come, which has thought about it. So what is the planning for the greenfield airports when you plan it with regard to the cargo, that let us create a dedicated freight corridor so that consignee is benefited?
Sir, I'll just answer to your question.
Achha, just a minute. We'll take 2 more questions and then we'll answer in one go.
Sir, it's already in the plan.
Okay. We have taken 4 questions, 1 more. Yes, sir, please.
I understand that Reliance Baramati also developed near Bombay. What about that airport? Is it defunct or still being used?
Okay. इंद्रजीत जी का भी कुछ सवाल था.
My question is addressed to Javed Saab, and probably Madam Vandana can also pitch in. You mentioned about wine. Now, wine is a good fuel. You know, it's got ethanol. And wine is also like what you mentioned as alternate fuel. Do we often use wine for aircraft? Because route planning will be very difficult, you know.
सर आजकल तो लोगों के पीने के लिए ही कम मिल रही है. Okay. So we can start answering. Who will pick which? Sorry, sir. Yes, sir.
Can I? My concern is about the cargo, in fact, the customers actually, the flyers' luggage. I've been a regular flyer. Every month I go out, and I have been flying since 1969. When I was not there, it was the Palam airport in Delhi. But my experience of the handling of the baggage is very bad. So please, I think, do some training to the staff, ground staff there, those who handle this baggage.
अच्छा तो देखो ये तो फिर क्वेश्चन सेशन ही हो जाएगा, आंसर देने का तो टाइम नहीं मिलेगा. No, there is still a hand there. Yes, sir.
Just a brief question. I am Dr. Yogesh Srivastava from WTC Business and Industry Association. There is a Jewar airport coming up, and everybody is talking about Jewar, those who are not only in Delhi and NCR, but all across India. So is the cargo facilities are also going to be there in Jewar airport? So this is what I want to confirm.
Oh, yes. A very big plan for that. Acha, Charul ji, you will like to answer that question? Yeah.
About senior citizen and accessibility for I'm just answering your question, sir. So we already have a policy in place and it's already been notified under the Gazette on the 9th of January 2022. And I was one of the nodal members who have worked out total guidelines and standards for accessibility for civil aviation. So it is in place, sir, and we are doing a lot of things to make all the airports accessible. Yeah, thank you.
Javed, yeah.
Sir, so coming first to Speaker Lawyer Saab's question, what about the discussion about the consumers? The morning we have been talking that जो पैसेंजर है ये ट्रांजिट लोकेशन एयरपोर्ट होता है हाउ उसको हम उसको कैसे बना सकते हैं सुधार सकते हैं दैट इज़ वन पार्ट और जो दूसरा पार्ट है सर जो कार्गो में जो मैंने अभी बताया था कि जैसे हम लोग नॉर्थ ईस्ट रीजन विच इज़ नॉट कनेक्टेड प्रॉपरली उसके प्रोड्यूस इंडिया मतलब वेस्टर्न पार्ट में नहीं आ पाते हैं एंड वेस्टर्न पार्ट विच इज़ गुड इन ऑनियंस पोमोग्रेनेट्स यहाँ के उत्पादन वहाँ पर जाने पाते हैं सो द ड्रीम प्रोजेक्ट विच आई एम वर्किंग राइट नाउ is connecting the western and eastern part. That is by Bharat Jodo by aviation. The cargoes will be exchanged from there and their produce will be coming to this part of India and our produce, western part of produce will be connected to northeast part of India. So directly the consumer and the producers will be connected together. Second thing, the first question regarding the cargo hubs which are not in proper manner designed in such a way to the airport. So, I'll one-to-one I'll have talk with sir. The cargo hub which is developed in Nasik is well connected to the runway. The clearances, excise, customs and all are designed in such a way, the warehousing in such a way that the domestic terminal, cargo terminal plus defense terminal are geographically different but connected to the mainstream. So, whenever the new projects which are coming and developed by Airport Authority of India or any other private firm who is supporting the India for this development should consider this as a cargo hub to be designed in such a way that there is seamless transfer of the goods. So, one of the practical examples you can please, all of teams are welcome to Nasik where you can see such kind of infrastructure. That's available. Where the experience of Concord Corporation of India and HL both have come together and designed a warehousing plus clearance and all cargoes in such a manner. Thank you.
Good. I'll request Kamal to take 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Thank
then
you.
Vandanaji and then we
I just
close.
wanted to talk about, of course, the gentleman raised sustainable aviation fuel and wine. That was, of course, on the lighter side, I'm assuming. But from a SAF perspective, India is taking a good lead on SAF production. The issue is that it's a chicken and egg. There's a huge investment required for development of SAF. India has the largest possible feedstock after Brazil. There are various kinds of feedstocks. There's Jatropha plant, there is the municipal waste, there is the algae. There are various feedstocks, and India has immense reservoirs of all the feedstocks. The issue in India is that there has to be a policy thrust from the government by way of incentives to the organizations who are willing to produce SAF. There are a few who are doing it. IOC has now been assigned the task of developing SAF. We as airlines are more than willing to buy SAF as much as we can, as long as it is, if not lower than the current ATF, then definitely at the same ATF that we currently buy. Because being a very competitive industry, and aviation fuel even today accounts for 40% of the operating cost, no airline, not just in India, anywhere, would want to actually go and pay more for any fuel. So that's something which, I've been working closely with various governments, petroleum, civil aviation, agriculture, And in fact, we were the first airline to do a demo flight in 2018 on SAF from Dehradun to Delhi, the first airline in South Asia. And it's something which is very close to us, to Ajay Singh as our chairman, to me personally, to promote this. And I would want advocacy from any and every quarter towards this. Thank you.
Okay. Just 1 minute. We'll have more points during lunch time, but right now I am told that we have to vacate the hall in next 2-3 minutes. So, recognizing the efforts of Nari Shakti, the last word is from Vandana ji as far as this session is concerned.
Wheelchair services provided by the metro is superb.
Okay.
Free of cost, I had already suggested we should be asked to pay at least 10 rupees per ride. What happens? You go to a station, you say, I cannot walk, they'll bring the wheelchair, take me to the station, and then they'll tell the driver, ये साहब को राजीव चौक में उतारना है, हमको गाड़ी वहाँ जब हम पहुँचते हैं, wheelchair is available.
No, it is, I must tell you, as far as Indian culture is concerned, our all airlines, they are very, very supportive. And wheelchairs are, in fact, when I was on the board of Air India, in US, jokingly, they used to say, wheelchair airline अब आ गई है. Reason being, अगर 150 passenger होंगे तो 100 wheelchair होंगी. People will take it even for the convenience sake also. Vandana ji, quick, last 30 seconds.
No, sir, your point is very well taken. And yes. Yes, that's true. But gee, we have a lot to learn from Metro and the way the rapid metro has come up and the facilities it's providing. Totally 100% with you. Airlines are looking into it. Airlines are doing their best as well. But yes, it should be for specially abled and disabled people and senior, super senior citizens, and not really for the able who can actually walk. That's just to answer your question that yes, we are at it. The second thing, I think somebody raised a question about, the gentleman was talking about Jewar Airport. Yes, it's the next new big, it's the next new huge thing that's happening. And as we speak, and I can talk as a cargo freighter, as well as Saudi Arabian Airlines operating into 14 locations in India. You're talking about wine, we carry meat and meat products, 3 freighters, full freighters, even from places like Lucknow. But Jewar is the airport where everybody is really eyeing their slots and buying that capacity. That's one. Second thing, question was raised on skill development and training and why consumers are not involved. This is what I exactly spoke. Consumer voice is a must. We need everybody to be involved. We need everybody's suggestions coming in order to move faster. So we are with you in training, in skill, in training and development. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
All yours, ma'am, please. Thank you. Just I'll convey my thanks to Pulak, Vandana ji, Javed and Kamal ji. Excellent session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Let's put our hands together for that wonderful session we had. As I request Dr. R.K. Tyagi ji to kindly do the honors of presenting the mementos to our eminent speakers, we present to Sri Kamal Hingorani ji, who is Chief Cargo SpiceJet. Thank you very much indeed. We present to Shri Pulak Sain, Convener, MRO Association of India. To Ms. Vandana Singh, Director, Global Key Accounts, Asia and Pacific, Saudi Cargo. And to Mr. Javed Ali from HAL. And may I request all our eminent speakers to kindly step forward for a group photograph. And ladies and gentlemen, I take this opportunity to convey our heartfelt gratitude firstly to the Ministry of Civil Aviation for extending their support to us in organizing such events. They have always been forthcoming and we greatly value it. We express our gratitude to MOCA for their wholehearted support. Ladies and gentlemen, I also take this opportunity to appreciate the contributions made by the learned and eminent speakers and our distinguished moderators to make this event very lively and interesting. Financial support extended by our sponsors and supporters such as Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, Pavan Hans Limited, Government of Haryana, Civil Aviation Department, GMR Dial, and others has been of great help, which enabled us to organize this seminar. We earnestly express our gratitude to all of them. And ladies and gentlemen, we greatly appreciate the support and help extended by our associates, the Airports Authority of India, Pavan Hans Limited, Air Cargo Forum India, and aviation associations. Media partners, TMI and Amity University. Our heartfelt thanks to the press and media for their attendance and coverage of this event. We would like to thank the members of the organizing committee for their unstinted support. And we express our gratitude to General KM Seth, President FAST, Sri VP Agarwal, Vice President FAST, and the other Board of Trustees and Executive Committee members for their valuable guidance. And in the end, ladies and gentlemen, we would extend our heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for your participation in making this event a huge success that it was. Thank you once again. Please join us for lunch served outside. And we close the seminar here. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you. Enjoy your lunch. Have a safe drive home. Good afternoon and namaskar.